Yo, man, it's good once again to be back on the Undisputed GOAT podcast. This week, we have a special added guest, the great Aiden Coleman. You saw him on PSP's podcast. You've seen it on Brandon from the Box podcast. Now he's back here on the Undisputed GOAT podcast. He's an avid Baltimore Ravens fan, man. Tell people where to find you real quick, Aiden.
My TikTok, my Instagram, YouTube, especially with TikTok, especially it getting banned in a few days. So just at Aiden Coleman, usually.
All right, then. I got my normal guys. We got the big three in the building. We have BRF, man. Got a little piece of that snow up there, didn't you? I saw it.
Man, boy, let me tell you something. As a person who lives in an area that gets snow once every few years, I'll take an inch plus of snow. It was pretty to see. My daughter, my niece got to play in it. It was fun. And I ain't gonna lie. I took a snow day from work yesterday. I went today, but I took a snow day yesterday. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I had to enjoy that a little bit. But yeah, man, we got a little bit out of it, and it was refreshing. It was refreshing to see. But always a pleasure. Come on, man. We stay ready, so we ain't got to get ready. Always a pleasure getting on here, and I'm ready to chop it up and do what we do best.
Speaking of cold weather, we got the Flash in the building, man. How you been, man?
Doing good. And, you guys wanted me to come down to Georgia, and I thought I can't physically come down to Georgia, so I figured I'd come down and I'd send a little bit of Wisconsin spirit down there with some snow. I think it's hilarious that you had a snow day because that's just a normal Tuesday for us up here in Wisconsin. So, snow day. What are those? Good Lord.
That's called being in Georgia, Flash. We're not as fortunate to get it as often as the show.
I know, I get
it. Bro, let me tell you something, man. I was so disappointed that it did not snow down here. We got a lot of sleet down here, and I'm sitting around here trying to drive got my windshield wipers on high trying to drive. So yeah, we get
Atlanta got it the worst. Like when I heard the reports and there was like they're looking at like maybe 3 to 4 inches in Atlanta. I'm like, man, watch it mess around and we'll get like that. We'll get like ice and like sleet and stuff. But yesterday morning, I'm looking and I'm just like, ooh, that look you get when you a kid in the candy store. You just like, ooh.
Hey man, the snow day is always a good day, especially when you down here in Georgia where you don't get that many. And look, man.
Shout out to Sports for You. Shout out to J Dub. What's good with it, fam?
Yeah, Mr. Watson, man. OG, we appreciate you, brother. Hey, always, man, gotta support each other, gotta love each other, man. And look, hey, speaking of that, because Mr. Watson, he is from the great city of Los Angeles out there in California. Oh, no problem. He is from the great city of Los Angeles out there in California. As we all know, we've had 2 tragedies out there in California over the course of the last 2 days. We had the wildfires out there that have gotten out of control. As you saw, BRF, Trill, he had to look out of his window while we was doing the wrestling show in order to make sure the fire consumed them. So, look, and big shout out to the Bay Area, San Francisco and Oakland, I would say. They was dealing with the earthquakes and things of that nature. So look, let's not on this year of prosperity forget about people who are less fortunate.
Facts.
Because I'm going to tell you this, and this is not to get biblical, but I'm going to just be real. You're always a paycheck away from being homeless, a teardrop away from crying, and a gunshot away from dying. So do not take anything for granted. So let's send our thoughts, our prayers, our tenderness, and our love out there to California. This show is dedicated to you guys. Like you see in the title, this one's for Los Angeles. Now this is for you as well, San Fran. We love you guys out there. Hey, look, we're going to keep pushing for you guys. We're going to send our thoughts and prayers out there to you as well. Make sure y'all go and donate to the Red Cross. If you're able to send meals, if you're able to do anything for the people of Los Angeles and the people of the Bay Area, make sure you get that done. Because guess what? You want that same energy if it was you. On behalf of the Undisputed GOAT podcast, I would like to send a salute to every last one of you out there in Los Angeles and in San Francisco on the West Coast. We love you from down south. So I'm going to send y'all the salute as we start off the show. Normally we do a moment of silence, but it's customary to give a salute on the Undisputed GOAT podcast as well as the PSP podcast. So we will send a salute out there on the West Coast. Thank y'all for everything. We love you. So let's get to these quick hits, if you will, man. Let's get to the quick hits. As y'all know, man, look, we had one heck of a day the last couple days with the college football playoffs. Heck of a day, man. It's been spectacular. So I got to ask y'all this, man. Ryan Day has been making a lie out of everybody. He made a lie of Shannon Sharp. He made a lot of the Ohio State fans. He made a lot of Michigan. He's been making a lie out of a lot of people. And like I've been saying, me and you, BRF and Flash, we've been talking about this back to back. You know, this is similar to what Kirby Smart went through when he had his first national championship, where he had to go through Alabama. You know, the stigma on him is he couldn't beat Alabama, but he managed to find his way in the playoffs. And guess what? We was able to win the college football playoff national championship. Now, they won't get the fortune. They won't be as fortunate as we were in being able to face Michigan in the college football playoff, but they faced the most storied franchise, arguably, in college football history in Ohio State, which, like we said last week, is a rivalry, by the way. So I have to ask y'all this on the quick hits. Is Ryan Day the Kirby Smart of the Big Ten? We will start off with you, BRF.
If you want to compare it as far as like being the best coach in the conference, yes. If you're talking about it from a standpoint of needing to being dominant, but needing to get over that last hump to truly solidify yourself. I mean, there's not another coach in the Big Ten you can say that kind of comes close to what Ryan Day has accomplished, even though he's, the one thing he's missing is a national championship. So yeah, you kind of have to agree with that point that he is the Kirby Smart of the Big Ten. And shout out, honestly, I'm gonna give a shout out to the Ohio State Buckeyes, just the way they revved their game up since the beginning of the college football playoffs. Like, we were thinking after the Michigan game, they were done. That they might as well not even show up. And I mean, just the performances they put on have just been, bro. They run through Tennessee, they run through Oregon. I mean, the game with Texas was close, but ultimately they took over in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, shout out to Ohio State for really revving their game up since the playoffs started. And quite frankly, they were my pick. I can honestly say I was going either them or Georgia for the national championship to win it. So, I mean, honestly, right now it's looking pretty good for the Buckeyes. So shout out to them. But yeah, I'll have to say right now, yes, because a lot of the career trajectory kind of is similar to what Kirby Smart was going through when he first got to Georgia in the SEC in terms of winning, being dominant, already having conference titles, but needing that national championship to get over the hump. So I say yes, because there's similarities in the trajectory. So yeah.
Awesome. AC.
I think he could be the Ryan Day of the Kirby Smart of the Big Ten, mostly because, I mean, I haven't really watched college football for that long, so I don't really know much about like Kirby Smart and how they work. But I think he could be like the Kirby Smart of the Big Ten.
All right. Flash.
Well, so I've been saying since the beginning, since our prediction that Ohio State was going to win the national title, and unfortunately now they're going to be up against my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, but when it comes to Ryan Day, I think the career arcs are a little similar to Kirby Smart. It's the thing that I've kind of been harping on for a while in general is the overall knee-jerk reaction when it comes to any kind of fan base nowadays is that they want immediate results and are not willing to let something grow. So it's I've been saying it, it's come up a couple times since the start of college football season. Is Ryan Day's job in jeopardy? And I've always said no, I don't think so. I think it'd be really stupid to get rid of him. It'd be a knee-jerk reaction to basically nothing. And but if he wins the national title again, I think, Champ, you said it last week, all of that goes away in an instant. So and then it's over. And then then it's. I mean, I should say it's over, but the slack that he's going to be given is a lot more. So, is it very similar? Yeah, but I'm not surprised.
Oh, sorry. But that was a nasty stiff arm. Y'all see that?
Yeah, I saw it.
It was a nasty stiff arm. He in how we used to say it back in the day. He got mush. And so,
let's go, boys. Let's drink down the field.
Man, he got mush. All right, well, we're gonna get to the Baltimore Ravens later. But I gotta ask you this question, Flash. Since you are the Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, and shout out to my father, by the way, man. He's a diehard Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan, man. I remember when Ty Willingham was the coach, and he was still cheering for him back. You should have saw the way Flash's eyes just dropped when I said that name. What's so funny about that recruitment? What's so funny when I said Ty Willingham? Yeah, I feel like, you see, like his eyes just dropped when I said that, because Ty Willingham was not that. He was a good coach, but not that.
Yeah, well, Sorry, you guys are breaking up a little bit again. I'm trying to fix my internet connection right now, and it's for some odd reason I have a very weak connection. So if you guys are going in and out a little bit, well, what was the question you wanted to ask me, Champ?
How great is Notre Dame being in the Natty is for college football? How great is that for college football? It's kind of like the Cowboys being in the Super Bowl again, if you ask me. But you're the Notre Dame fan. I'll let you answer that question.
I said it last week, and even the lead up, having Notre Dame as a legit national title contender, not just basically, in the playoff or, in contention because of their name, like they're a legit contender now, is huge for college football. It does a lot of things. We're going to get to their independence in a minute here. I don't want to get ahead of the game. But it's huge. They are the face of college football, just like the Dallas Cowboys to a certain extent. As a Packer fan, I don't even want to say that, but to a certain extent, like if the Dallas Cowboys are good, they are kind of the face of the National Football League, whether people like it or not. It's kind of like I hate to say this too, as a Boston guy, the Los Angeles Lakers are kind of the face of the NBA. They always will be. They're in Los Angeles. It's just how the league has ended up and how it is. You can make that's just a fact. And having Notre Dame a national title contender makes college football in the game better. It just does. One, they're a natural. I talked about this a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Having a natural, having a natural villain in any kind of sport drives up ratings. And Notre Dame is actually, even though they haven't won anything in a long time, they're a natural villain, because they're the face. Mm-hmm. So it's great for college football. It is phenomenal in so many ways. So it's just great. It's just great. It drives up ratings. It gives legitimacy to I think the playoff gives legitimacy to their run, because if we were under the old ranking system, I bet you people would say like, oh, they're just getting that ranking because they're Notre Dame. So it's a huge, it's a big, big thing.
BRF.
I mean, pretty much echoing all of Flash's sentiments. I mean, having Notre Dame being where they are as a national, as a national championship finalist, as a national championship contender. It's great for college football. It puts the spotlight back on Notre Dame. It's not just about, like you said, like Notre Dame's not in the picture just because of the brand, because of the name. Like they're literally earning everything that they've gotten up to this point. We were ragging them about that loss early in the year to Northern Illinois, thinking like, why if you're Notre Dame, why are you losing to Northern Illinois like this? And 16-14 of that, why are you losing to Northern Illinois? Have they lost since? No, they haven't. That's just about no, they haven't. So it's really, I think that's probably the one thing. Even though with their brand, you could kind of point to them as like, being the villain of college football, because we were talking about it like, yeah, like Notre Dame being here is like, Cowboys going to the Super Bowl, Celtics or Lakers winning the NBA championship, Yankees winning the World Series, just kind of like, just like, well, champ, you like hockey. It would be like a team like the New York Rangers or the Pittsburgh Penguins, storied franchises like that winning the Stanley Cup, faces, franchise faces of the league. So it's just like, it's good for the sport when your storied franchises are succeeding and are in contention for championships year in and year out. And shout out to Marcus Freeman for just, putting his school back on the map with his coaching style and just his ability to to handle the adversity of that Northern Illinois game and to come back the way they have. Yeah, I mean, this is like, I think we were saying it like, if we get, Flash pretty much nailed it perfectly. If we got Ohio State, Notre Dame for the national championship, which we're getting, I can only imagine what these ratings are about to be. These ratings are about to be great because I mean, and I pointed out this is a rivalry game for people who don't follow the sport. Ohio State and Notre Dame is a rivalry. I mean, they don't play like year in and year out against each other, but they're a rivalry. They are a rivalry. This is a rivalry game. So, I mean, this is definitely big for the sport, and it's big for Notre Dame to be back in this spotlight like this. So, definitely, I think it's a great thing for college football, and also with Notre Dame being back on top. You have a question that my answer is probably going to lead a little bit into later, but we'll just say Notre Dame being back on top is going to make it fun for a lot of other schools to put them on the schedule and give them a national spotlight. I'll elaborate more when we hit that topic later on, but yeah, Notre Dame is great for college football to be able to for them succeeding again. It's great for college football.
AC, you got anything to add for that?
No, not really much. Echoing the same thing they all said.
I gotta drop this firecracker in there. Not no pipe bomb, but I gotta drop this firecracker in there before it's all said and done. Look, I have to ask this question because I wouldn't be doing my job as a content creator or a journalist if I didn't ask this question. Does Marcus Freeman's success at Notre Dame, because the big old stigmatism around Notre Dame was, well, they can't beat the SEC, they can't beat the Big Ten, they're just going to boil all over them. So they go out and not only beat Georgia, and they turn right back around and beat Penn State. So does that prove that, does that prove that Brian Kelly was the issue behind that?
A little, I guess time will tell. Depends on the recruiting and the athletes they continue to get at Notre Dame to help them succeed. I tell you one thing though, beating Georgia the way they did and then turn around and smacking Penn State the way they did, that only does wonders for them in the realms of recruiting and being able to get these, top tier talent to be like, top tier talent that, they might be interested in Notre Dame. But because Notre Dame really haven't been winning like that, they'd be hesitant to go. Notre Dame being in the national championship game is like, oh, okay, so they back. I want to go. I want to experience this because I feel like Notre Dame in college football being on top is like one of the spectacles of college football. There are only like a few schools in college football when they're on top, they're on top, and Notre Dame is one of those schools. So. Yeah, it does wonders for them. Most importantly, in the recruiting trail, because players that would normally go to Georgia, Penn State, really like the SEC schools, players that would normally go there, see a school like Notre Dame, particularly with a coach like Marcus Freeman, and it's intriguing to them. They kind of, they want to experience a run like this. So this will only help Notre Dame out in the long term, particularly in the recruiting, which is where it really kind of is going to even out that stigmatism as opposed to not being able to beat an SEC school or a Big Ten school. They did that in back-to-back weeks. So what can we say?
Yes, indeed. Hey, I gotta must say this real quick. Before I take my turn on this, I gotta invite another special guest on here, man. Look, the guy, I gotta give him this flowers. The guy who's responsible for even us being on this show right about now, PSP, because without PSP, it would not be an Undisputed GOAT podcast. It's like a spinoff show. It's like and then spit off from Wolverine. So without the X-Men, we wouldn't be here. So man, PSP, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. What's happening, BRF? How you doing, Aiden? I just did a video regarding the Chargers Texans game. It's out right now, so whenever y'all have the chance, please go check it out. I know y'all were talking about that Chargers Texans game. Oh man, that was a tough one.
Conversations are about to be had, and I will leave it at that.
Yeah, we got like about 2 more segments before we get into that game. Anything to add about how great Notre Dame being in the Natty is for college football?
I think it's great because finally I know BRF and UChamp because y'all Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, it's finally time for once we stop seeing the SEC dominance. Shout out to Marcus Freeman. You're becoming the first Black coach in a national championship game. I mean, that's huge. And then Ohio State. I was kind of shocked that Ohio. I'm not shocked that they won, but how did they win the game though? I mean, that fumble recovery, how he ran it all the way for a touchdown though. And to your point, champ, you talked about Quinn Ewers. He's gonna make a mistake or two. You did say that.
Hey, I hate to be I told him turning the ball over is kind of like me eating a sandwich. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna eat a sandwich, and Quentin Ewers is gonna turn over that ball. So that is gonna happen. So
he's either gonna throw a horrible pass in like double coverage, misread the route, or take the unnecessary sacks he was taking because he has crap pocket presence. Like one of those two things were bound to happen.
Yeah. I gotta ask this question real quick before as we wait on Flash in order to come back. Who's the biggest loser of the college football playoff? I'm gonna go first on it. Got to be the SEC at this point because a lot of these games. Look, Tennessee, we got thrashed. Georgia, we got thrashed. We was lucky to make it. I mean, the SEC as a whole, we was lucky to make it out of the Cam Scatterboot game. That's just being honest with you. They was lucky to make it out of that game unscathed because I thought they was about to be upset. Be honest with you. Then Texas goes out, lay a big old egg at the Ohio State game to get dominated. So I gotta say the SEC. But what says you, BRF?
Man, I don't think there's another answer here. It's definitely the SEC. I mean, to send your big three guns into the playoff with Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas, to send your three guns and none of them to make the final. I mean, it's a testament of the transfer portal and the wealth being spread around as far as just the talent. You know what I'm saying? All the talent's not going to the big bad SEC no more. More talent is being spread out to different schools, whereas more schools having an opportunity to win see Ohio State and Notre Dame being in the national championship game. So it's definitely the SEC, but at the same time, it's something that the SEC can recover from because they're not going to go away. I mean, I know it's good that there's not an SEC team in the title game. It's good. And, the rest of the country is going to celebrate a little bit because they're not dealing with the SEC because this is probably one of the weaker SEC years we've seen in a while. Is it the death of the SEC? No, not in the least bit. And Georgia's showing that with some of the recruiting they've been doing this week, which has been out of this world crazy, that transfer portal. But it's good that the wealth is being spread around talent-wise to other schools, to where other schools can feel like they can compete and they can win championships. But yeah, definitely the loser is the SEC. But I don't think it's not as gloom and doom as some people are gonna make it, because they can recover. Me being a college football guy, I've always been a college football guy, even though I'm just now getting back into it. I've always been a college football guy. I'm glad to see the wealth spread as far as talent, and I'm glad to see other schools prospering and succeeding, because they're actually getting big time talent that's going to help them win games and contend for championships. It's about the parity for me, and I love to see the parity. But yeah, the biggest loser is definitely the SEC.
AC.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest loser is probably the SEC. They had their three big teams. Tennessee getting beat badly by Ohio State, and then Texas and Georgia getting beat. I mean, the biggest loss here was the SEC.
PSP.
I would say Oregon, even though you could say the SEC, but Oregon to get embarrassed in that game in the Rose Bowl by Ohio State, by Jeremiah Smith, a true freshman, and who's going to make some serious first-round buzz. Unfortunately, he's a freshman, but if he were entering the NFL draft, he would easily be a first-round pick. And I don't think I'm exaggerating when I actually say that.
No.
Because Oregon, you had the season. You finally had the quarterback, and Dylan Gabriel was in the conversation for the Heisman. You know, shout out to our guy, Brandon from the block. Great guy. Loves himself some Oregon Ducks. If you had lost, okay, but to lose the way that you did to Ohio State, though, that has got to be embarrassing, especially with the season that y'all had, winning the Big Ten championship, before that game being undefeated. How are you going to replicate that? So just to be different, I'm going to say Oregon.
Okay, then. Okay, so we lost Flash for a couple minutes. He's having some technical difficulties, but the great Flash from Wisconsin will be back. So we'll move on, and I'll save that. I think we should save that Notre Dame independence question so when he gets back, since he's a Notre Dame fan. So I think we'll save that. So let's get out of the quick picks and let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. So PSP, since you're our honored guest, you and Aiden, I will let you go first. Thoughts on the Los Angeles versus Houston game, and how do you feel about it? And is Justin Herbert still in top 5 conversations? You have the floor, my friend.
I'll let Aiden go first.
Hey.
I don't think Herbert should be in the top 5 conversations, at least right now with this season that he was having. But yeah, this Chargers team, we thought they were going to be really good in the playoffs against the Texans and everything, because the Texans haven't been a really great team recently with how they've been playing and how Tank Dell went down again for the season. But I mean, Texas just brought it down on them. Los Angeles did not do good at all on offense or on defense, and Houston just dominated them through that and through pick sixes.
Yeah. That was ugly. That was uglier than the Master Beat sneakers. PSP.
That's why you call. That's why you, like with Jim Cornette, you say colorful. That's why you're also colorful as well. In all seriousness, all jokes aside, listen, Champ, I saw the video, the TikTok video, and yes, you mentioned that LA, and first and foremost, hearts and prayers, condolences go to the people there in Los Angeles. You did mention how that did play a factor for their play, but I still think you got to give credit to Houston at the end of the day. They went after Justin Herbert, 14 of 32, 242 yards, 4 interceptions. That's the most interceptions by a Chargers quarterback in a playoff game. You got to go back to Stan Humphries in 1995.
Ugh.
So, yeah, that's bad. But with this performance, and by the way, the turning point, I think, of the game was when C.J. Stroud bobbled the snap and then he was able to recover it and then threw it to Xavier Hutchinson for a 34-yard gain. That's what changed the momentum, as well as Joe Mixon, as well as CJ Stroud running the football. Nico Collins, no Stephon Diggs, no Tank Dell. I made the Pro Bowl this year, and we talked about this champ numerous times on our pod with Danielle Hunter, with the addition with Will Anderson Jr. Those guys, Will Anderson has double-digit sacks this season. He's going to get after the quarterback as well as Danielle Hunter. But Justin Herbert, I'm going to be honest and clip this, champ. If this were Lamar Jackson, what would we be saying if he had a performance like that?
We would be mashing him, to be honest with you. But look, I will say this, and I'm not trying to give anybody a pass. This is Lamar. When you win MVPs, you're considered the elite of the elite. Versus Herbert, yes, he has the stats, but the thing is, this is his first really year with a real head coach. Now, that is inexcusable, that performance. But
Right.
to your point, with Lamar, if Lamar Jackson would have came out here today and threw 4 interceptions and just sold a game like that, we'd eat him alive, and rightfully so. And look, Herbert deserves a heck of a lot of criticism because there's no way you can justify a performance like that, even with the fires going on. So you're absolutely right.
And to add on to that, he doesn't have any more excuses with Brandon Staley anymore. He's out of the picture now. You have Jim Harbaugh. Didn't you have the number 1 defense in the NFL in the Los Angeles Chargers?
Yes, sir.
So you had Joey Bosa, you had Derwin James, you had Khalil Mack. You had enough in that game. It was awful. And unfortunately for Justin Herbert now, he's going to have to live with the narrative. Is he a playoff choker? Because don't be surprised, champ, if people on social media going to start labeling him playoff choker after this performance. Had he played well and if they lost, no, I'm not going to label him playoff choker or anything like that. Because again, it's still a team sport. But to lose in the way that he did in that fashion, ain't no getting away around it. Ain't no way around it. As DJ Drama said, ain't no way around it. Justin Herbert is going to have to deal with a lot of criticism heading into the offseason. And the only way that he can bounce back is by him going to the playoffs, having a great playoff performance, and winning. CJ Stroud, he was off shaky in the first half, but the Houston Texans, DeMeco Ryans, man, ever since that hire of DeMeco Ryans, a defensive-minded guy who used to play for the Houston Texans, boy, he has been a game changer and a culture changer for the city of H-Town. But with Justin Herbert, the reason why I cannot give him a pass, yes, I understand, champ, to your point with Lamar with the MVPs, but Justin Herbert too good of a quarterback to be playing that bad. And the fact that you have Jim Harbaugh as your head coach with that defense and no longer Brandon Staley. And another point, and I mentioned this on the video, Chargers now, it's a pattern. You had Dan Fouts. You had Drew Brees. You had Phillip Rivers. And now you have Justin Herbert. And with Justin Herbert, look, he's only 26 years old, but at the same time, he's in a division with Patrick Mahomes, who ain't even 30 years old yet. He'll be 30 in September. He ain't going away. Andy Reid ain't going away. And you can't discount Denver, considering the year that Bo Nix is having. Bo Nix is in the discussion for Offensive Rookie of the Year, rightfully so, and had a hell of a season. And unfortunately for Justin Herbert, I'm afraid if he doesn't do anything, he's going to be labeled an afterthought. That's my biggest fear. So that's all I got to say regarding that. But big ups to the Houston Texans.
BRF from the snowy city of Madison, Georgia.
You ain't kidding about that. Yeah. The minute you enter that atmosphere of top 3 or top 5 or top 10 or whatever, the minute you enter that atmosphere where you're being crowned by your peers or the people that watch you, your fans, when you enter that atmosphere for your play, you kind of lose a little bit of that leash. You lose a little bit of that grace period. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, and I feel like it's a lot of consensus right now. If you're top four, if you're Mount Rushmore right now of current quarterbacks or Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow, who's in that next tier? And a lot of us really say consensus wise, Justin Herbert is the best who's not in the top four. So that makes him a top 5 quarterback in the league. So you can't give him a pass on this. And I'll say this. Definitely we send prayers out to those affected by the wildfires and all the tragedies that are going on out there in California. I go all the way back to that 06 to 09 period with the New Orleans Saints after Hurricane Katrina. Basically having their entire city underwater, wiped out, having to basically rebuild from the ground up. Who was at the forefront of that as far as just building the spirit of that city back up? It was the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
And how did they cap that off? They capped it off by beating the Indianapolis Colts and winning the championship. They capped it off and brought that city back to the highest of highs by winning the championship. So the LA Chargers could have did that for their area. Could have gave them some more hope. Could have gave them some belief that, to bring something back to the city, to take their minds away from that. Just being that kind of like with sports and everything like that, with life, for us doing podcasts and stuff like that. So we live life on a day-to-day. We work.
Compartmentalize.
Exactly. We compartmentalize. We work. We spend 8 hours a day at work. You got family. In my case, I have a 9-year-old little girl. So it's about, you have life on a day-to-day basis. But this is like our getaway. This is like our safe space. This is like 2 to 3 hours of just getting away from life itself and just, kind of freeing ourselves up, allowing us to just be us and to be able to have some fun away from everything else. And that's why it's not really that. I want to look at it from a football standpoint. The Chargers were horrible today. They were flat out horrible. 2 things can be true. I said this in the chat. 2 things can be true. Is Herbert a top 5 quarterback in the league? Absolutely. I feel he's the best outside of the big 4. Justin Herbert has been a bad playoff quarterback through his first playoff games. He has not been a good playoff quarterback. 2 things can be true at once. And let me tell you something, with a performance like this, the man threw 3 interceptions all year. He threw 4 in this game. Conversations have to be, you have to start having these conversations, because 1 is an accident, 2 is a trend. So, conversations have to be had here. Like, and the thing is, we can't keep saying like, oh, well, Justin Herbert needs this, Justin Herbert needs that. Patrick Mahomes won a championship with Juju Smith-Schuster basically as his de facto number 1. Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm just saying, if we're putting you in top 5 stratosphere, you got to be able to play. You got to be able to lift up the players around you, regardless of the talent you have. If you're in this stratosphere, you got to be able to lift them up. You got to be able to lift them up. You know what I'm saying? We said that about Pat. You look at what Josh Allen is doing with the Buffalo Bills. And let me tell you something. He's not exempt from this too. Because the only thing he has to do is get over the Patrick Mahomes hump. So he's not exempt from this too. He's got to put that work in the playoffs, or we gonna get him too. So it's as simple as that. When you start entering this rarefied air of being among the elite of the elite, to a certain extent, we expect you to, if nothing else, not be the reason your team lost. And you are one of the biggest reasons why your team lost. Because let's face it, I mean, the Houston Texans defense, relentless. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, those boys, when they got up, like 23-6, before Justin Herbert threw that crazy touchdown pass to Ladd McConkey to make it 23-13.
Sacked twice.
My God. I mean, not just sacked, he got rocked. D'Amico Ryan said, okay, we got them up. We finna release the hounds on them. And let me tell you something. That one sack Will Anderson got, it had to be a miscommunication on the offensive line, and he got a free run, and he Goldberg speared that man in the backfield. Like, bro, I thought they're lucky they got that touchdown, because I seriously thought this was about to be even more BTA than it ended up being BTA. So,
you know, that game kind of reminded me of, to some extent, remember No Way Out 2003, Eric Bischoff versus Stone Cold? And when Stone Cold kicking Eric Bischoff's ass, and then JR, with good old JR with a big smile on his face, chanting and ranting on Austin beating up Eric Bischoff. That was that kind of performance.
It really was that kind of performance. And it's funny you say that, because you remember the part in the match where after Stone Cold gave him the stunner, and he went to pin Bischoff, and the referee goes 1-2, and Stone Cold grabs Eric Bischoff's arm and pull him up and make it seem like he was kicking out at 2.
There you go.
That's kind of what that Justin Herbert touchdown to Ladd McConkey was. It was Houston pulling his arm. It was Houston pulling his arm up off the mat, saying, "Oh yeah, he still got a chance. Let him hang around a little bit longer. He still got a chance." And Houston was like, "Nah, we finna go ahead and then." Stone Cold finally gave him that last stunner, put him down for the 3 count, and Houston was like, "Yeah, nah, okay, we let y'all have your fun." Because right as that touchdown happened, they make it 23-12. Right when they're about to kick the extra point, blocked, return, 2 points. Any momentum you had was instantly gone. Next play. This honestly is the Houston Texans team we were really expecting to see this season. And we saw it in glimpses. We saw it in spurts. We didn't see it consistently. This makes the Houston Texans a lot scarier, because if the defense is going to play like this in the playoffs, with the potential they still have on offense with Nico, with Dalton Schultz, with Joe Mixon, if John Mechie gets more consistent with the way the defense is playing, Houston's an X-factor team that can shock somebody and possibly make a conference championship game. And we were saying this in the preseason.
We did.
But we were saying it in the preseason. But the defense showed up today. Showed up in a big way today.
Oh,
shout out to Derek Stingley Jr., best corner in the league, not named Patrick Surtain II. Right now he is. I mean, his coverage skills, his ball hawking ability. He does everything great. Derek Stingley is that type of corner. And Houston is lucky they have, him and Kamari Lassiter are going to be giving people fits for years. That corner duo, they going to be something serious. So shout out to the Houston Texans. Hell of a performance today. But Justin Herbert, my guy, I still think you a top 5 quarterback in this league. Conversation got to be had with you in the playoffs, my good sir, because you ain't done it these first 2 games. You gonna get plenty more opportunities. Don't get it twisted. He's gonna get more opportunities, but that next one, he's got to show up. Because if he doesn't show up the next time he makes the playoffs, which could definitely be next year, because I think the Chargers are still gonna be a good squad. I think they can make the playoffs next year. But if he lays another egg,
gonna be hard though, especially not with Kansas City, Denver.
Well, yeah, exactly. It is gonna be hard because like you said, Kansas City ain't going to win. Denver's on the come up, so it's definitely gonna be hard. But this could be another 3-team making the playoffs out of the AFC West this year. It could easily happen. But if he lays another egg and if he pulls another stinker like this in the playoffs, the conversations are only going to get worse. And we're going to look at you like, oh, what's the point of you being okay? Yeah, you're top 5. What's the point of us putting you in these conversations? Is if every time you get into playoffs, you fail and you can't get it done. So next year might be make or break, particularly if they do make the playoffs again next year. Conversations are about to really intensify as far as Justin Herbert and his ability to play in the playoffs. So you kind of got to call it as you see it.
So I got another question for you guys. Look, and this is about the Chargers. And big shout out to a Georgia Bulldog, Ladd McConkey, setting the rookie receiving record, even in losing, because he got off today. You know, people could call it garbage time yards, but a record is a record. But I got to ask you, are they one weapon away from being true Super Bowl contention? And should Harbaugh be a Coach of the Year candidate? Or do they just have everything they need right now?
I think they could. I think they could get a corner on the defensive side of the football because they have the line in Bosa and Mack, and I love with Derwin James in safety. It's going to be hard for them to even compete Super Bowl because the AFC, they're just too loaded. I mean, you got to deal with Mahomes, you got to deal with Burrow, you got to deal with all the good quarterback play in that conference and in that division. I just think for Los Angeles, this is as far as you can go. I hate to say this with Justin Herbert, this is as far as you can go. And then once that contract runs out, you probably may have to think about going elsewhere because I just don't see him getting that far with the Chargers as presently constructed.
VRF?
I'm not going to go that far. I think they can do something. This is where I'm looking at it from the Chargers on offense. Because his first years in the league, even though he couldn't stay healthy, when Justin Herbert had Mike Williams, he had an ability to blow the top off a defense in terms of a deep threat. With Mike Williams' speed being, even though he was as big as he is, but still having that deep threat to take the top off defense to be able to open that, to be able to kind of, just giving them a vertical threat, giving them the ability to stretch the field, to go from 30-yard line to 30-yard line in an instant.
But they need to get rid of Quinn Johnston. They got to get rid of him.
Oh, hell yeah, they got to get his ass up out of there.
Unless if you want to, unless this is what you could do. Because Quentin Johnson is not a number 2. He's definitely not a number 2. I think Ladd would serve best as the slot guy, but still being kind of being like your Cooper Kupp, Wes Welker type. He plays the slot, but you can line him up out. But you can line him up on the boundary. You can line him up on the boundary. You can move him everywhere. He does his thing. And then Quentin Johnson is basically one purpose: 50-50 ball. If you can't do nothing else, you can get 50-50 balls. Can you imagine what a Tyreek Hill would do for this offense?
Ooh.
Tyreek Hill would fit this scheme very well. And as a matter of fact, I'm seeing a lot of LA Chargers rumbling as being like one of the top 5 spots if Tyreek Hill were to get traded in the offseason. Imagine what a Tyreek Hill would do for this offense.
That'd be nasty.
And it would be, because I look at a Tyreek Hill. Is he what he was beginning in Kansas City? No, he's not that guy. But he's still one of the fastest dudes in the league. He's still a really good route runner. You put the ball in his hands. He's still, in my opinion, he's still one of the most 5 dangerous skill position players in the league when you put the ball in his hands. And then a guy with the arm of a Justin Herbert, he can't outrun him. He can't outthrow him. So, I mean, it's one of those situations where it's like, it's a dangerous situation. I think a piece like that could really serve Justin Herbert in having a get out of jail free card. When all else fails, put the ball in Tyreek's hand, let him do his thing. He don't have anybody like that in LA right now. Give him somebody like that as just like a security valve, as a safety valve, just like when I call it, the when all else fails type of player. I would like to see LA make a serious run at trying to get Tyreek Hill in the offseason. I would like to see him try. There's another team that's kind of rattling my cages about Tyreek Hill, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to say the LA Chargers. I think the LA Chargers would be the best fit for Tyreek Hill in terms of time frame and what they're trying to do to win now. I think Tyreek Hill makes most sense going to the Los Angeles Chargers.
I wonder how the Chiefs fans would handle him being in the Chargers uniform, though.
They wouldn't have no choice, and Derrick Henry just scored another touchdown. Good God.
They beat their ass like they
But they got to get rid of Johnson. I'm sorry, Quentin Johnston. Ever since he came to the Chargers, he has been a disappointment, man. I mean, all he does, he drops like too many balls, and plus, I don't think he does enough as far as creating separation. So at this point, for not even number 2, I'm not even sure he's a number 3. So if you're the Chargers, what do you do with him?
I don't think there's really much you can do with him because who's going to take him?
Nobody.
Exactly. So I think, I think for their sake, they just got to.
Whiteside. I mean, this is as bad as JJ Arcega-Whiteside, though.
Oh, no. In my opinion, this is worse than JJ Arcega-Whiteside, in my opinion. Quentin Johnson had way more expectations than JJ Arcega-Whiteside. He had way more expectations. Being a first-round draft pick, he had way more expectations. We saw this boy at TCU, and we thought he was legit. Oh, no, this is far worse.
He's not like a receiver. He's a retriever. A retriever is someone who just like picks it up and brings it to you.
Yeah,
I got that from Shannon Sharp. Thank you.
He shows a lot of shades. Quentin, he does, of David Boston when he went to the San Diego Chargers. He shows a lot of shades of that. I mean, remember what I said about Deebo Samuel's Manos de Piedra. So I mean, hey, so you got Quentin with hands of concrete. So I mean, it's kind of hard. So,
but at least with David Boston, he gave you that one really, really, really good year in Arizona before he got his money. Quentin Johnson ain't done squat.
Nowhere near that.
Like I said, there is a such thing as being a good player and playing for a contract. So, I mean, hey, I always say that. So we down two. Aiden had to leave. And Flash is unfortunately having some technical difficulties. So we're technically right now on Sports PSP Podcast Part 2, except we on Saturday instead of Friday.
we got our logo. We got our logo behind us tonight. So
I lied to Saturday nights. All right. By the way, I know what y'all thought of Raw.
Oh yeah, we were getting to that on the last segment.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be we're gonna say that for last, but yeah.
All right, all pro selections. Who got snubbed? I'm gonna go first. Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson.
Chip. Over there's Saquon, there's Derrick Henry.
Bijan Robinson. No, all jokes aside, Jalen Johnson from the Chicago Bears. He had one of the best years in this year, but unfortunately, because of that record and the things that was happening around Chicago, I think that he got lost in that shuffle. I think he got lost in the All Pro because they call him Johnson Island for a reason. So I mean, and I know that word gets thrown around, but he is a true shutdown corner. So I was joking about the Bijan because I'm not gonna put him in there over Saquon or Derrick Henry because they had the better years and they're the better back. I will say thus far, but I will say Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson definitely got snubbed in All Pro. But BRF, what says you, brother?
I mean, the biggest snub. I mean, you picked the right team, but you picked the wrong side of the football. Jesse Bates should have made second team over Budda Baker. And the numbers are there. He had the interceptions, he had the fumble recoveries, the tackles, the catches allowed. Jesse Bates should have made second team All Pro instead of Budda Baker. And the numbers do not lie. Jesse Bates should have made second team over Budda Baker. You got a team. You got our team, but you got the wrong side of the ball. I think Jesse Bates was a snub, and I'm trying to think. Do I have one from the offensive side of the ball? I think Jesse Bates was my biggest defensive snub on either first or second team. He definitely should have made the. Definitely should have got in over Budda Baker. As far as the, you know what, I'm gonna keep it there. Between first and second All Pro, I think he was the biggest snub. But like I said, I think he should have got in over Budda Baker on second team. But I'm gonna go with that.
Great consolation prize for Atlanta. Our guy Chris Lindstrom did make it. So, I mean, Chris Lindstrom, one of the top guards in the league. And hey, look, when I say that line is instrumental, it is instrumental, my friend. It is instrumental. But the great PSP, who got snubbed in the All Pro?
Honestly, really, I kind of like it. I really do actually like what I see from the first team All Pro. Although I would love to see Josh Allen, only because I had Josh Allen for the MVP. I got no problem with Lamar. Saquon there, I'm good with that. Patrick Rickard, yes. Brock Bowers definitely deserving of first team All Pro.
He was the best tight end in the league all year. Facts.
Absolutely. Got no problem with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson there. Okay, Amon-Ra St. Brown. All right, I'll live with that. I'm kind of good with it. I'm kind of good with it, though. But just for me, Josh Allen. I just wanted to see Josh Allen make first team All Pro because it looked like he was about to win the MVP. But now with Lamar being first team All Pro, it looks like he's going to win the league MVP. So I understand from that standpoint.
Last second team All Pro quarterback in order to win the NFL MVP, John Elway in 1987. He won it over Joe Montana. So
and he shouldn't have, but that's a conversation for another day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at the end of the day that year, Joe Montana got eliminated by an 8-8 team in the playoffs, and John Elway went to the Super Bowl. So, but I will say one big snub I don't think people's thinking about. Did Brian Thomas make the All Pro?
Nope.
That's another snub. He got snubbed from the Pro Bowl and All Pro because his rookie stats are right up there with Randy Moss. He's one of the few to have 1,200 yards and double-digit touchdowns. But you think about it, you're not going to put him over Jamar Chase, Jefferson, those guys. I understand, but he should have definitely been in consideration.
The wide receivers for second team All Pro are CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, and my guy Terry McLaurin.
Scary Terry.
You can't go wrong with either one of those three.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Terry, especially the type of year. First year he had double-digit touchdowns, plus CD without Dak Prescott this season. Had to go with Cooper Rush for the rest of the season and still over 1,000 yards. Still showing and justifying why Jerry had no other choice but to pay CD that money. And he's going to have to worry about taking care of Michael Parsons probably right after this season. I don't see that happening.
I think he's gone, and I know a team down south that'll take him. Neither here nor there.
What, Atlanta?
You got doing right. We'll take Michael Parsons in a heartbeat. We need a pass rusher anyway. And then we can get him and draft Jalen. Okay, I don't want to get too in my fanfare. But yeah.
Is this your way of trying to help out Champ because he missed out on the opportunity on Dallas Turner for Michael Penix?
Heck no, because I still am on board with the Michael Penix selection. And those 3 games validated my feelings because he balled out. So we were right in taking Michael. We were still right in taking Michael Penix. I don't back off of that at all. But I will say this though: if they're going to be serious about winning next year, we got to get a pass rusher. For me, it's going to be one of 2 things: you either take a swing and you get Michael Parsons, whether it be free agency or in a trade, or you draft somebody at 15, whether it be Nick Scorton, James Pierce, Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, one of those pass rushers, one of those guys. But we definitely got to improve in that area next year because Arnold Ebiketie cannot do it all by himself.
Trade up for Abdul Carter. That's all I got to say.
That's
I can see that too. I can see that too.
Abdul Carter. Ain't
I,
no way around it.
I don't. But here's the thing, though. A lot of people are gonna have him like top 5, top 10. I don't think he's good, but I don't think he top 5, top 10 high. I don't think he top 5, top 10 high. I think someone's gonna reach for him. I don't know if he's good, but I don't know if he's like top 10 good. Now he might show me something, but I don't know because there's still. I mean, I understand with pass rushers in college, there's still things you can work on, but I mean, in particular, that last game is just like I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. We see the really good pass rushers and we hype them up, but then we forget. Oh, wait a minute. There's got to be a well-roundedness about his game. So I feel like we could stay at 15 and get a really good pass rusher instead of having to trade up. Like I said, any one of those 4 guys I named, I'd be cool with, to be honest with you, if we stayed at 15. I don't think we have to trade up for Abdul Carter. I think we could get somebody just as good at 15.
I still think you want to get another wide receiver because of the opportunity you missed on Jalen McMillan.
I'm trying to. Well, the thing is who's going to be who's available.
Oh.
Honestly,
I'll be right back, champ. I gotta take care of something real quick.
All right.
Honestly, though, I would. I'm actually anxious with the idea of Rondale Moore coming back from injury next year. I would like to see them just give, like, hopefully he stay healthy and actually give him a shot. Like, because with Avery Williams, I mean, he's not what he was anymore as far as like as a return man. Put him back there returning.
Yeah. Like, do you think that Drake London should go? We should go ahead and pay Drake London real quick.
Yep. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You go ahead and lock him up. Lock him up now.
Do you take care of Kyle Pitts?
I think you give him the 5th-year option. No, you give him the 5th-year option. I think that game against Washington, I think having Michael Penix for a full year, I think he's earned the right to the 5th-year option. One more shot. But if you can't do it with a guy with an arm like Michael Penix who can throw you open, you got to go. You got to go.
All right. We'll go into the next segment. Now, it seems like, look, the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to mount a comeback at this point, but, it ain't over until Professor Clump sings. But, there's always room for improvement for the Steelers. So I got to ask y'all this, man. As we all know, Pittsburgh Steelers started off 10-3. They was 3 games in front of Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. Then down the stretch, they just hit a skid. And this has been like frequently for the last few seasons. So I got to ask y'all this, man. We all love Mike Tomlin. We all acknowledge he's one of the best coaches in the league. But, making the playoffs every year is not the standard for Pittsburgh. Winning them Lombardi trophies is. They have the most trophies in it. I mean, they was the first team in order to win 6 Super Bowls. So, and rightfully so, one of the flagship franchises in the NFL. So I got to ask y'all this. If they are to lose this game, and that's a big if they lose, because they're trying to mount a comeback, you can never count Mike Tomlin out of a game with Pittsburgh. Should he be on a hot seat at this point, much like he was last year? Because not just because of him just making the playoffs, but that collapse, not being able to, get the correct quarterback get the right offense in place at a certain point, the collapse going on down the stretch, just a multitude of things going on, not to mention some of the behavior issues that he's been having with all of his star players. He just cannot seem to get these star players to do right versus how Bill Cowher was able to get them to do what he needed them to do. He had problems with Le'Veon, had problems with Antonio Brown, had problems with Santonio Holmes, had problems with Deontay Jackson. Now some of these behavior problems are leaking over to George Pickens. So it seems like, outside of the collapses that he have, and he's not able to relate to his star players in order to get them where he needs to be. So I have to ask y'all this. Well, I'll start with you, BRF. Should Mike Tomlin be on the hot seat if they were to drop this game the way they're dropping it right now?
See, if they lose this game, I think the seat does get warmer. I look at firing a coach like Mike Tomlin from the standpoint of it's hard to find someone who's going to come in and immediately command the respect of the franchise and to command it to a point of like, okay, yeah, Mike Tomlin was great. He won a championship here, but I can get you farther than what Mike Tomlin's done the past few years. And I look at that and I'm just like, well, I mean, if you think you can, go for it. I mean, granted, I understand the Pittsburgh Steelers are measured by championships. I mean, they have 6. They're measured by championships. They won 4 in the 70s. That one with Bill Cowher after 05. And then the one with Tomlin beating the Arizona Cardinals. So they're measured by ring. They are measured by rings. They are the standard when it comes to Super Bowl titles. However, with the league and parity and how everything is, the fact that Mike Tomlin has been able to keep them afloat for as long as he has, to be able to at least keep them in the hunt for the playoffs, still be able to make some AFC championship games. I mean, it's a testament to how good of a coach he still is. But I will say, you brought up the behavioral issues with some of his players, the Le'Veon Bells, the Antonio Browns, the Santonio Holmes, the George Pickens. I mean, yeah, Chase Claypool not always hustling like he needs to hustle, you know. So yeah, you have to. Those things have to be brought up into the conversation when you're looking at someone like Mike Tomlin. So if he loses this game, the seat does get warm. But at the same time, though, you're not going to fire him after this game. But next year, if he does it again, because it's been like 2-3 years running, he plays well in the regular season, he collapses going down the stretch in the playoffs, and they don't get far. If he does it again next year, oh boy! Speaking of conversations that need to be had, you might, if he does it again, you really might not. You might have to take that into consideration. I mean, you might not want to, but at the end of the day, you just can't keep letting making the playoffs be the end all be all. You have to at least make it back to an AFC Championship game. Show that you're trying to get back to a Super Bowl. Just making the playoffs, just making the playoffs is going to cut it. It's not going. It's not going. It shouldn't be the end. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to say, I have to look the stat up, but I mean, not only do they have the most Super Bowls, it wouldn't surprise me if they have the most AFC champion. I mean, they should have the most AFC championship wins too. If not, they're up there with those storied AFC franchises in terms of just getting to the Super Bowl conference title wins. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a conversation that really is gonna really take shape if they do this again next year. I wouldn't fire him after this game. But after next season, oh boy, it might be one of those situations where he really would have to do something in the playoffs to keep his job.
PSP.
If you fire him, who you gonna find to replace him?
That's the $1 million question.
That's the thing you're gonna ask yourself. It's kind of like with the 49ers with Kyle Shanahan. You can't go any farther than 2 Super Bowl appearances. And if you cut him, who are you going to find to replace? I mean, unless the Ravens, they'd be foolish to get rid of Todd Monken. And the Steelers probably pick him up, considering what he can do with quarterbacks and considering the best we've seen with Lamar Jackson as a passer. And you look at what he's done in Georgia with Stetson Bennett. I think Mike Tomlin, the problem with him is how he's allowed some of this behavior. Mm-hmm. Antonio Brown. Okay, we've seen it with Claypool, Juju. We've seen it with George Pickens. So what we've seen from Mike Tomlin is a pattern. So, I mean, history will always repeat itself. But for Pittsburgh, there should be higher standards than just getting to the playoffs. Getting to the playoffs ain't enough. But the thing is, the man still to this day has never had a losing record under his watch. And if you let him go, who are you going to find to replace him? Who's the hottest candidate out there? You going to bring in Cliff Kingsbury? I don't think so. Are you going to bring in some type of guy? Are you going to bring in a college guy? Or are you going to bring in some guy out there? Hey, if you're Pittsburgh, why don't you try to bring in Ben Johnson? Why don't you try to do that? Why don't you try to convince him to come to a place in Pittsburgh where they have playoff experience? You can get yourself a young quarterback to work with. You can work with this offense and see what you can do if you're Ben Johnson.
Couldn't hurt you. Could not hurt. Aaron Glenn would definitely be one of those coaches he's definitely a disciplinarian. And because I really think this team needs a lot of soap and water to the program, and you need somebody that's going to be able to, not physically, but proverbially, grab you by the collar and say, hey, fall in line or fall 37 stories. Sometimes you need that speech. And I understand that this is a new generation right about now, but guess what? Sometimes you need that grab by the collar and say, hey, fall in line. We're trying to win. And I don't think that he's done a good job of that, especially he's been a little bit of an enabler, if you will. With Antonio Brown, Deontay Jackson, and some of those guys, he's been a little bit of an enabler. And it's okay to be a player's coach, but don't do it at the expense of being an enabler. That is anticlimactic and, anti-productive. Where you are, because eventually their play is going to fall. Eventually. And players do have down years. So you're going to still have this guy distracting the team while he's doing all of these antics. So you got to be more harsh and be more disciplinary. You could go from, in the great words of someone famous, my father, you could go from being a hard ass to being, soft and sweet. You can't go from being soft and sweet to being a hard ass because people are going to laugh at you then. It's kind of like letting somebody eat ice cream for breakfast for years, and then all of a sudden they turn 13. Now you want to tell them to eat cornflakes. They're going to look at you and laugh. So, yeah. So you can't be an enabler. Anybody else got anything else they got to add to that?
But you go ahead, PSP.
No, I think Eric Glenn could actually be a good. I definitely think he could actually be good. But what about Steve Wilkes? Or what about Robert Saleh?
I think you probably just named two of our three top defensive coordinator candidates.
That's what I was just about to say. I'm praying that they come to Atlanta. We just fired Jimmy Lake, so shout out to Harrison, by the way. And we just fired Jimmy Lake, our defensive coordinator. So we're hoping one of those guys are coming to Atlanta as former defensive coordinator, because we sure as hell need them right now. So,
Champ, real quick though before we move on, I got a name for our defensive coordinator spot. I got a name, and I want you to I'm not saying he's going to get it, but I'm just saying when you look at the landscape, I got a name that they could bring in for the defensive coordinator spot, and I would really like to move. Watch out for Dennis Allen. Can you imagine the troll job that would be? The Saints firing him, and then we bring him in as our defensive coordinator, and not just that, bringing back Ryan Nielsen as our defensive line coach. Can you imagine the troll job that would be?
Chad don't want to associate with them Aints.
I'm sorry. When it's time to win, I want the best minds out there. And we got to remember, Dennis Allen, before this year, those Saints were never outside of the top half in total defense.
Never. And the Carolina Reaper again. I'm gonna get you, Harris. I'm gonna get you. But yeah, that's a good one. I mean, Dennis Allen is a hell of a coordinator. Some people are better coordinators than they are coach, and i.e. North Turner, guys like that.
If I was our front office, if it's me and you just put me in the spot for one guy, I'm sorry. I'm backing up the Brinks truck and I'm trying to get Robert Saleh to be our defensive coordinator. That's just my opinion. But there are other good names out there.
Yes. All right. Is time running out for the Baltimore Ravens to make a Super Bowl? Is this the year or bust? PSP?
Yes, time is running out because, again, with Lamar, he's about to win his third MVP. I think I got concerns about their secondary on the defensive side, though. But I think this is why you brought Derrick Henry there to the picture, so that you can balance out the offense. And the perfect example of how they should not do it was the season opener against the Chiefs. They let Lamar Jackson do a little too much instead of getting the ball to Henry more. You see how they are running the ball more with not only Lamar, but also Henry. That's what we need to see from Baltimore moving forward. The thing is, though, if they play at Kansas City or at Buffalo, this is actually a good thing because, again, they're the underdogs. No one is expecting them to win. Lamar has to live with the narrative of not performing well in the playoffs. John Harbaugh, hey, we keep talking about Mike Tomlin. At some point in time, when are we going to look at you? Because you've won a Super Bowl just like Mike Tomlin. You've had your fair success in the AFC North like Mike Tomlin. But getting to the playoffs ain't good enough either. So are we going to let go of you? Are we going to move on from you? And, they have enough of the pieces with Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends, by the way, from my school, Oklahoma. You also have the defensive players in Kyle Van Noy. This got to be it for Baltimore, because with Lamar Jackson, I don't know if he's going to have another type of year like he had with 41-4 or winning another MVP. So you might as well capitalize it. Time ain't forever. That's all I got to say.
BRF.
I have a take on this one. I might get killed for it, but it is what it is. I think the Super Bowl window is open as long as Todd Monken is their offensive coordinator. That's how I feel about it. I think Todd Monken really kind of his scheme set just fits Lamar to a T, and it's just allowed him to open everything up. And you're kind of seeing this year is how we talk about with how they talk about with fantasy sports, you have a floor game, you have a ceiling game, and all this other stuff. This season is a ceiling type season for Lamar Jackson. I mean, the 4,000 yards passing, the 41 touchdowns, the 4 interceptions, the 900 yards rushing on top of it, the really, really high completion percentage. Seeing an ability to throw outside the hash marks, pushing the ball down the field on the sideline, just seeing throws that Lamar Jackson's been making this year that we've really kind of criticized him for not making, but he's been making a lot of these throws this year. You're kind of seeing the full evolution of what the quarterback Lamar Jackson would look like if he puts it all together. We're seeing the first glimpses of that. And Todd Monken's really unlocked that. And you're really kind of seeing almost the full potential of what Lamar Jackson can be as a quarterback, not just as an athlete, not as a dual threat, but as a quarterback. So I really feel this window is open as long as they can keep Todd Monken at the offensive coordinator. But at the same time, though, that name is going to get hot for head coaching opportunities in the future. So I'm looking at maybe at least another year. I'm giving it a 2 to 3 year window with this team as it's currently constructed. But at the same time, though, I feel like any year from this point on is Super Bowl or bust with the Baltimore Ravens, because Lamar keeps stacking. If he's going to keep stacking up these MVPs like this, because it's with him getting first team All Pro. I think it's pretty much all but locked up. He's winning number 3 by him getting first team All Pro. So you kind of have to validate the regular season success by leading this franchise to a championship. So from this point on, it's not just this year. Every year is Super Bowl or bust with the Baltimore Ravens. If we're going to keep getting this Lamar Jackson, this evolution of Lamar Jackson, you have to get them to a Super Bowl at some point. Every year from here on out is Super Bowl or bust for Baltimore. That's how I feel about it.
But here's the thing, though.
Okay. Go ahead.
If we're going to say that about Baltimore, should we say that about Buffalo as well?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It's Super Bowl or bust for them, too. I'm not leaving them off the hook, because Josh Allen has played in AFC Championship games and has gone off, but he's lost. And Josh Allen has put up these numbers, and he's done these amazing things. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Not letting him off the hook at all. It's definitely like that with Buffalo too. It's getting to that point where Super Bowl or bust. We can't let him off the hook at all.
True.
All right.
Because go ahead, champ.
All right. Because the thing is, I was about to ask that question as well, but PSP, you guys beat me to it. That's why they say grapevines think alike, man. But yeah, I mean, Buffalo, I mean, we thought the window was closing up on them last year. Be honest with you, we thought it was closing up on them, but they was fortunate to get how far they went. But, you know, fortunately for them, they was able to come back and do it without Stephon Diggs, who we thought was going to be.
I think that's the thing. Once they let go of Stephon and once they became more versatile with the offense and incorporating more of the run with James Cook, and plus with Josh Allen, what has been a knock on him? Turnovers. He only threw 6 interceptions. So he didn't have to target Stephon Diggs as much. I mean, he got Khalil Shakir. He also had Coleman, Amari Cooper. That was a big pickup for them in the trade. So again, you get yourself a route runner like Amari. And to still keep the offense intact, clock is ticking for Buffalo. And if there's one quarterback that has a chance of dethroning Mahomes, it's Josh Allen. Even in the game against the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round, you won't find a better performance going up toe-to-toe to Patrick Mahomes than Josh Allen. 13 seconds. That's how much time Kansas City had in that clock. Normally, that's usually game over. But for Kansas City, it wasn't enough. I don't know what more could you ask from Josh Allen in that situation. And on top of that, when you look at with Josh Allen, I think because of the MVP and because he was snubbed from first team All-Pro, I think he may have a little bit of motivation. I think he'll probably be angry at them voters. And to remind everyone, you really gonna, no disrespect to Lamar, but did you not forget what I put this season? I did have 28 touchdowns. I did have 12 on the ground. I've been carrying this team on my back without my number one guy, Stephon Diggs, who's now in Houston. So I think Josh Allen is going to actually do something this season. It's going to be exciting.
Yes, indeed. BR, if you got anything to add to that, brother?
Yes, I do. I think with Josh Allen, we always keep harping on the turnovers and what he did last year. I think one of the biggest reliefs for him, as far as cutting down his turnovers, was Stephon Diggs leaving. A lot of his interceptions were forced throws to Stephon Diggs, trying to get him involved in offense. I think I'm pretty sure a lot of his interceptions last year was trying to force it to him. And not having him and not having that number one, not having that dominant voice like in your head, in your ear, week in and week out, it allowed him to truly focus on the position and actually be a quarterback and understand, hey, I need to spread the ball. Like this year more than ever, I got to spread the ball around. I got to get all my guys involved. I know I don't have a true number one, so I have to make sure everybody's getting involved. And I think Stephon Diggs leaving did a lot for his psyche. He was able to actually play the quarterback position and played it to the highest level to be able to get everybody involved. So honestly, I think Stephon Diggs leaving was one of the best things that could have happened to Josh Allen because he focused on the position more and he was able to have the type of year he had as far as not being able to not turning the ball over.
That is a hell of an assessment. We're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. We're talking about Josh Allen. We're talking about a lot of other teams. But we need to get into the NFC because can the same be said for the Philadelphia Eagles? Is it do or die for Coach Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles this year? We'll come back to you, BRL.
I think they need to get to the Super Bowl this year. I think it's Super Bowl or bust for the Eagles because this is what you build a team like this for. I mean, outside of losing Jason Kelce to retirement, that offensive line is still intact. You have one of the best receiving duos in the league in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. You have arguably the offensive player of the year in your backfield in Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts is still a really, really good quarterback. And I feel like he's in if he's not a top 10 quarterback, I think he's in those conversations. So I mean, and that defense has been astonishing over the second half of the season with the pass rush with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Zach Bond, with that cornerback duo, that rookie tandem, and Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. I mean, and Reed Blankenship back there in safety. I mean, this defense has been putting in some serious work this year over the second half of the season. Like, they're playing to the team as a whole right now is playing to their full potential of what we thought they could be in the preseason. So I definitely think if they don't at least get to the Super Bowl, it's going to be a major disappointment, because this is what you bring Saquon Barkley in for, to be that missing piece to the puzzle. Because I mean, we got to remember, I mean, just a couple years ago, Philadelphia Eagles made the Super Bowl. Their running game was nowhere near as good as it is right now with Saquon Barkley. So this is why you bring him here. So yeah, I think this is definitely, if nothing else, make the Super Bowl. I think it's a high disappointment if they don't at least make the Super Bowl this year. I mean, I think after that game with Minnesota, for me, it put Detroit back up as a slight favorite to win the NFC. But do I think Philadelphia could go to Detroit and handle them and be the one team to, knock them out on their home field? I absolutely do, because they're a matchup problem for the Detroit Lions, and particularly Jared Goff being horrible against pressure, against the blitz, and Philadelphia being a very fast offense, a very fast defense, being able to blitz from all levels presents problems for Jared Goff, and also with their with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, their ability to catch the ball, their ability to go deep on that secondary. I mean, we know Kirby Joseph is good. He's been an all-world safety for them this year. We know how good Brian Branch has been, but we know those corners can get burnt. And against a tandem like Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, they can get them. So I seriously think, if I'm the Detroit Lions, the one team I do not want to face for the NFC Championship on my home field are the Philadelphia Eagles, because of all the matchup problems they present. But I'll also say on the other side, I think it's do or die for them, because, like I said, this is what you build a team like this for, to get to the Super Bowl. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're not building this team just to, make to the playoffs and celebrate. You built this team to get to the Super Bowl. So I definitely think this is Super Bowl or bust for the Eagles. It's a big disappointment if they don't at least make the Super Bowl this year.
PSP.
I would not be surprised or shocked at all if Philadelphia were playing the NFC Championship game at Lincoln Financial Field, because I think Detroit, even though they've done well with without Aiden Hutchinson, this is Darius Smith trade that was really big for them, but still, I think losing David Montgomery is going to hurt, even though it hasn't slowed them down. But with that first round bye, how is Detroit going to be? You're not the number 2 seed anymore. You're now the number 1 seed. So how are you going to be coming off the first the round bye? How are you going to be? How is Jared Goff going to perform? And I think with the Eagles, as long as Jalen Hurts just takes care of the football with the defense is presently constructed, and with Saquon running the way that he is, that's the thing for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's why he was in the conversation for the MVP, because without Saquon Barkley, yes, the Eagles are still a good football team. They're still a playoff caliber team, but they're nowhere near as good offensively without him. So if you take away him, how would the Eagles be? I think yes, because of this move. Because again, remember, in that NFC East, we haven't seen a team win that division back-to-back years since Philadelphia in the early 2000s with Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid and stuff. Next year, I hate to say this, but I will say it. My Washington Commanders, they're not sleeping. They're actually going to get better. Hopefully, as time goes on, they improve that offensive line. They improve the run game. We have the quarterback of the future in Jaden Daniels. Now we got to get ourselves a number 2 wide receiver. Now we got to get ourselves some better corners. So if you're Philly, you might as well capitalize it, because, again, there's no guarantee you're going to win the division back-to-back years. When's the last time that has happened? When's the last time that a team has won it back-to-back years? I mean, you got to look yourself at that question. Detroit, to me, is under the most pressure. I think, because of all the injuries, what Dan Campbell's going to do. Is he going to learn from his playoff situations? Is he going to learn how to handle clock management situations better? Like, how is he going to handle that? Detroit, to me, is under the most pressure.
Okay. Anything you have to add to that, BRF?
No, sir. I think PSP kind of hit everything, hit the nail on the head right there. I definitely agree with him that Detroit is probably the NFC team under the most pressure, and mainly because of making the NFC title game this year, and then coming into the season with even more heightened expectations, and basically for the most part living up to them. So I definitely agree with him that I think Detroit's under the most pressure.
Do you think if Green Bay beats Philadelphia tomorrow, is Philadelphia's season a failure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, like I said, you don't add a Saquon Barkley just to make the playoffs. You add a Saquon Barkley to get to a Super Bowl. It's definitely a disappointment if they lose to Green Bay.
All right. Speaking of the NFC East, we have a very exciting quarterback that plays for the Washington Commanders. And the reason why I brought up that upset is a question that I posed in the chat earlier this week. Does Jaden Daniels and the Commanders have the chance to be the first rookie since Brock Purdy to make the conference championship? PFD, please set the tone, brother.
No, because I think Tampa, that's the team that you have to look out in the NFC. Because, look, I have questions about their pass defense, but they can stop the run. They can get after the quarterback. And I can't say anything more about what I've seen from Baker Mayfield. I mean, he has completely resurrected his career. I just think that Washington's defense going up against those types of weapons, even without Chris Godwin, they're going to have to deal with McMillan. They have to deal with Cade Otton. They have to deal with Bucky Irving. That's the thing with Washington. They can't stop the run. Bucky Irving is going to have himself a game. So just in case if Baker Mayfield struggles, you have Bucky Irving to step up. I think for Jaden Daniels in Washington, they haven't won a playoff game since 2005. So, 20 years? So, I don't see Jaden Daniels getting him to the conference championship game. It could be a surprise. It could. I mean, it wouldn't shock some people because of the poise, the moxie that Jaden Daniels has. But I think there's just too much. And plus, I got to see how Cliff Kingsbury is with his play calling and Dan Quaid. How are you going to handle stopping the run? Okay, you had the same issue last year when you were the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. How are you going to stop the run? That's my concerns. But I think Tampa is the team to look at for the NFC. And if they actually go up against Philly in the divisional round, honestly, as crazy as it may sound to some people, I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa actually beats Philly because they can produce points.
All right. BRF. Does Jaden Daniels have the chance to be the first rookie since Brock Purdy to make the conference championship? You have the floor.
I think they do, with the NFC being as wide open as it is. The NFC is really, really wide open right now. I definitely do think they can get there, because one thing I do like about Washington, we saw it firsthand in that Sunday night game. We saw it firsthand. When they're controlling the tempo and they're making the defense react to what they want them to react to, they are one of the scariest offenses in the league because they're running the ball, RPOs, Jaden Daniels spreading the field out even more with his ability to run the ball. And then you have a guy as good as Terry McLaurin out there in the boundary. You have a guy in Zach Ertz who can still command attention in the middle of the field with his abilities. So I definitely do think Washington has a chance to get there. Now, I've been saying this for the past few weeks. I felt like whoever won the NFC South would be the dark horse, because I've said it, styles win fights, especially in the playoffs. Styles dictate and win fights. And with Tampa, I feel like in this day and age of how they play football, even though the running back is having a renaissance, and the running back is definitely an important position on the field again. This style of play is still predicated on the passing game. And Tampa does that as well as anybody in the league. They know how to spread you out. They can go 3-4 wide. They can spread you out. They can take advantage of those mismatches. In particular, I think a guy to watch out for, and PSP brought his name up. Cade Otton is a guy to watch. Cade Otton is going to be a guy to watch in this postseason because he's shown an ability to take advantage of mismatches, particularly against smaller corners or against linebackers, because he's shown a surprising amount of athleticism to be able to get away from these players, to get away from the coverages like that. So, while I do think Washington can make it because the NFC is definitely wide open, I do agree with PSP's assessment. Tampa is the dark horse. That's like,
hi.
Good evening.
So, yeah, I definitely do think that Tampa is the dark horse because, like I said, their style in this day and age can definitely pull some upsets, especially if you do not have your passing defense on lockdown. Mm-hmm. With Tampa being able to command the field with their ability to throw the ball, long passes, short passes, intermediate passes. Tampa definitely for me is the dark horse. But I do think Washington can get there just solely off. They have a really good ability to run, even though their run defense is definitely still a question mark. Definitely still a big question mark. I'll look at how they're able to control the tempo with their offense, and they have a very surprising ability to rush the passer and get after the quarterback as well. So, I think they have a. Do I think they're going to? I'm not gonna lie. I'm picking them to beat Tampa. I don't know why. It's just this kind of. It's kind of like this kind of gut feeling I'm having that I'm actually picking them to beat Tampa. But that Washington Tampa game is probably going to be it wouldn't shock me if it was the most exciting game of the entire wild card round because I just feel like that has shootout written all over it.
Yeah. Hey, I definitely think they got a big chance, especially when you got Scary Terry and Jada Davis back there, one of the most exciting young quarterbacks in the league right about now. Hey, if you could outscore them, you could beat them. And I know that's not always the case with a lot of offenses, but because sometimes they do sputter at times. But I think that the Washington Commanders can definitely outscore the Tampa Bay Bucks. But I do have to ask this question to you, PSP, because we've been talking about a lot of, the Browns and things of that nature. If Baker Mayfield was to make it to, let's say, the NFC Championship, is that more of a further indictment on Cleveland and the mistake that they made at this point? Or is the jury already out? We already know they made the mistake. There's no more evidence to be gathered.
It's already been a mistake because, again, you decided to move on from Baker Mayfield. You said you wanted an adult at that position. And you decided to go with Deshaun Watson, which, again, with all the mess that he had off the football field, now he repaired his Achilles again. So you have the number 2 overall pick in Cleveland. So you're going to draft yourself a quarterback, whether Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, however they go, 1 or 2. Either way, you drafting one of those 2 guys because you can't tell me you're going to trust Deshaun Watson to be back to what he was. Baker Mayfield, I think the writing was already on the wall. And I think with Baker, him being there with the Rams and then now rejuvenating his career in Tampa, I think it's the best thing that's happened to him. He has weapons. He has a culture. Todd Bowles likes him. The organization has a lot of respect for him. He loves it there. He and his wife, Emily. I mean, shout out to them. I mean, remember, they gave, $18,000 to a football team. And guess what? They gave him equipment. Guess what? They won the championship.
Yes.
So, shout outs to Baker. Look, Baker Mayfield has been really underrated. And I agree with Stephen A. Smith. At some point, we may have to discuss a 30 for 30 documentary. Because how does a quarterback get drafted number 1 overall, rise fall, and then redeem himself. And the best is yet to come. Baker's only 29 years old. So Baker still has some good enough football left in him. If he actually gets them to the conference championship game, it just adds more validation. But it's already, it's already been a mistake. The Cleveland Browns trade for Deshaun Watson, unequivocally, the worst trade in football. Might be one of the worst moves in football, other than Washington signing Albert Hainsworth in free agency.
Ew. That's nasty. That's nasty. That's nasty as potato salad with pineapples in. That's that nasty. What about you, BRL?
Oh boy, not a potato salad with fruit in it. Oh boy, yeah, that's rough. Honestly, I don't think there's really no more that we need to add for it to be a stupid move by the Cleveland Browns to get rid of him. I mean, yeah, Baker Mayfield could advance to the NFC championship game, but I look at it like this: that man's thrown 67 touchdowns the last 2 years. I mean, with the Cleveland Browns, it's just about being able to lock up and keep competent quarterback play. And you let Baker Mayfield walk, and this man is in top 10 quarterback conversations. I don't think there's really no more you need to do to the Cleveland Browns psyche than say, hey, a guy that you let go is in top 10 quarterback talks. There's no more you can do to the Cleveland Browns psyche other than just say that. And I mean, I'm gonna just go ahead and say it because it needs to be said. Not only do I think the Deshaun Watson trade is the worst trade in NFL history. Not only do I think it's the worst trade in NFL history, it's bordering worst trade in sports history. Like it's getting up there. Like if you wanna look at I'm trying to think really bad sports trades.
Joe Barry.
If you want to look.
Joe Barry Carroll for Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale.
That's so you can definitely go that route. You can go back to the fire sale of 1997 with the Florida Marlins, not necessarily just trades, but just letting people walk and then just watching that team play the way they played in '98. Danny Manning for Dominique Wilkins. You can go to that one. If you want to throw another football trade in there, the Herschel Walker trade, if you want to throw that one in there. I mean, look what it did for the Dallas Cowboys, and look what happened to Herschel Walker's career after he left. I mean, what more can you say? And there's plenty of other free agency deals and signings or whatever that we can talk about as far as the worst move in sports history, like the Anthony Rendon signing by the LA Angels. Just horrible, very horrible. Yeah, this Deshaun Watson deal is just, if it couldn't splatter and get any worse. 3 months after the original rupture, he did it again. If it can't get any worse, and so basically his 2025 is all but gone. He ain't playing in 2025. 2 ruptures of the same Achilles in 3 months. He's not playing in 2025. So now you're looking at potentially drafting a quarterback and going out and possibly signing maybe a Kirk Cousins if they let him go, just to have a bridge until you get the next quarterback in. Or they could just run with the quarterback they drafted number 2 from the jump. But it's just the point of view.
Winston? No Martin Luther Winston?
Bro, no. You could
take it back to the pulpit.
You can only build that bridge for so long before that sucker starts to buckle and crack. And Jameis Winston is not the bridge I would be trusting right now. So either draft the quarterback and let him go for the jump, or just go another route. But yeah, it's. I mean, I kind of hate to say you brought it on yourself, but I mean, Cleveland Browns had Baker Mayfield right there. And this man played through a whole shoulder injury for them. and they still let him go. So you get what you paid for. You got what you paid for, and you gave Deshaun Watson all of that $230 million guarantee, and you've only gotten 19 games out of him, and you're not going to get 2025. So this, I think is a shoe-in for worst deal in NFL history. I think it's a shoe-in. And then when you're talking sports in general, it might be top 5 worst sports deals ever, because there's been absolutely no return of investment on Deshaun Watson. And it's not only the Baker Mayfield impact. Look at the Houston Texans now. The picks they were acquired, that they were able to turn into a CJ Stroud, that they were able to turn into a Tank Dell. I mean, just the moves that they've been able to make off of that from their perspective, letting Deshaun Watson go. Yeah. So this is double. It's double trouble bad. It is double trouble bad. I have never seen one player take this big of a hit after one move with what we've seen with Deshaun Watson. I mean, tragic, yes, but I mean, sometimes it's one of those things where it is what it is at this point. So, Cleveland Browns, you made this bad. You got to lay in it now.
Hey, look, Cleveland, you have that effect on quarterbacks. I will say that. But what would be interesting is if he was to get released, go somewhere in free agency, and just have a breakout year somewhere, because we've seen that happen before in Cleveland. We saw what happened with Benny Testaverde. We saw it happen with Jeff Garcia. Saw it happen with Baker Mayfield. Could we potentially see that with Deshaun? I doubt it, because the thing is this. I don't think nobody's going to want you on their team, not just because of your play and your availability, but because of PR issues, especially if you go to certain teams, unless you go to the West Coast. But I digress.
Hold on. I'm laughing. Bro, let me get this out real quick. Let me tell you something. With Deshaun Watson missing all of 2025, let me tell you something. If they let this man walk and he comes back healthy in 2026 and he breaks out and, let's say, has a year like he did that 2020 with Houston, if he comes back from his injury, goes someplace else and plays well, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm running wing T from now until the end of time. I ain't playing with no quarterbacks no more. I'm done with quarterbacks. If Deshaun Watson leave you and goes someplace else and plays well, just run options from now until the team disintegrates. Y'all are officially a wing T offense. If I'm a quarterback, I'm never going to Cleveland. I'm not. Every quarterback from here on out will be pulling Eli Mannings if Cleveland's in consideration to draft you at the quarterback position. That would just be the ultimate slap in the face. I don't think it's going to happen, because I think Deshaun Watson is too much damaged goods at this point. But hypothetically speaking, if it was to happen, put the fries in the bag, put the burger in the bag, put the apple pie in the bag, just put the whole damn meal in the bag. If Deshaun Watson goes somewhere else and does well, Cleveland just that's all I got to say.
Hey, let's get into another team that has been having a rough time at the quarterback position, that being the New York Jets, and one quarterback in particular, Aaron Rodgers. So there's been a lot of speculation that he's going to retire, and whether he's going to go somewhere else, things of that nature. So gotta ask this question real quick. Oh, my bad. Should Aaron Rodgers retire, or the stats telling a different story?
You done messed up, Aaron. You done messed up, Aaron. You done messed up. Man, let me tell you something. I saw that. What was it? That graphic. I think they put his numbers and Patrick Mahomes' numbers side by side, and then that whole little, I guess that comment he said saying his down year is somebody's like career year. I'm like, bro, outside of the moments you had this year, did you see yourself play this year? did you see yourself play this year? Don't let them numbers fool you. Aaron Rodgers was not good. He was not good. And the reason why I say that is the telling tale for that. Look at that completion percentage. How often do you see Aaron Rodgers with a completion percentage that low?
It was low.
So if it'd be one thing if he was like still hitting his 67, 66, 67, 68 completion percentage. That'd be one thing. This man, what, 61, 62? Nah. I feel like with him, a lot of that is just his accuracy and his ability to complete these balls. And he wasn't doing it this year. And then just the inconsistency of the offense, the flow, just not being there. Here one day, not there the next. Just too much. Even if the numbers show that he had a good year, this was not a good year by Aaron Rodgers standards. He was not a good player at all this year. I think a lot of it late in the season was kind of bailed out from the standpoint that Davante Adams is still that guy. And Davante Adams is going to command a lot of attention in the offseason, and somebody's going to get Davante Adams, and they still going to get an arguably top 5 wide receiver at his craft in the league. So, it depends on who will want to take a chance on him because, it's pretty much a shoe-in. He's not going to be back with the New York Jets. So the question is, where do you go? And especially if you have the thought process that you want to win still, where do you go and who's going to want to take you? And because honestly, I feel like the teams that might have a shot at contention that may need a quarterback, I don't think they're going to go for you because you're too much of a headache. So he might have to consider retiring just because a lot of these teams that need quarterbacks, I think, are already going to have plans in place to go out and whether it's signing someone or drafting somebody upcoming in the draft. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the forefront of a lot of franchises' mind going into the offseason. I know some people were saying the Minnesota Vikings. I don't see that. I just don't. I don't think he need to be trying to follow Brett Favre that much. So, I think unless somebody just takes a shot on him, it might be that time to hang them cleats up. It really might be that time. Because I don't know who's gonna want to take the chance on the headache with Aaron Rodgers at this point. Because then you're signing him, and then everything has to you have to basically comfort his ego, and I don't think a lot of teams is going to be willing to do that with the quality of play this season. So I don't know. He might really need to consider. He might need to consider retirement because I don't think nobody's really going to take a shot on him. I wouldn't think for their sake. I don't even think the Cleveland Browns would be even that stupid, even though they're stupid. I don't think they'd be that dumb. So I think it's about that time.
PSP.
Man, Aaron Rodgers need to retire. Let's stop. Nobody cares. You one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Your play this season was not that good. And the reason why it ticks me off with his performance against the Miami Dolphins, because guess what? People going to buy into the narrative. Well, he beat against the Miami Dolphins, a team who are competing for a playoff spot. He's still proven that he can still make off-platform throws. He still proved that he can still play at a level. That wasn't the case this season. The expectations for them was to get to the playoffs or at least a deep playoff run. You haven't done that since 2010. And Woody Johnson, I'm sorry. This is what happens when you decide to allow people to pick talent based on Madden ratings. Okay? That's like picking terrible comedians to speak for you. That's like picking Carlos Mencia to tell a joke for you. Okay? That ain't that good. So this is on the New York Jets organization. I mean, you Knicks, you flexed the Jared Jeudy trade all because of his Madden rating. And plus, it was reported that Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers. So that tells you Aaron Rodgers' play wasn't even that good.
Mm-hmm.
And guess who was one of the 4 wide receivers that made the Pro Bowl for the AFC?
Who?
Jared Jeudy.
Mm-hmm. And they've done their part to accommodate Aaron Rodgers. They got him Devontae in the trade. They got him Alan Lazard. I think they got Randall Cobb, right? So they've done their part to accommodate him, and this is what he gives them in return. Now, look, is it all Aaron Rodgers' fault? I'm not going to put all on him, but he plays a huge role. I mean, with Robert Saleh getting fired, the GM getting fired, and considering how you were in the offseason, particularly at training camp, and this is why all three of us said, even though he's not better than Rodgers as a talent, we would much rather want Kirk Cousins. So, New York Jets, you got to restore some order, and you got to move on from Aaron Rodgers. But the thing is, who are you going to get in this draft? And Aaron Rodgers, do you really think Minnesota is going to take a chance on you, considering what they're seeing from Sam Darnold? And plus, they moved up in the draft to take J.J. McCarthy. Mm-hmm. So, which team out there Aaron Rodgers could go to? I mean, which team that would actually be interested enough in order to take him? Okay, I mean, you look at the rest of the AFC. But Miami, I don't know about Miami. No, they already signed with Tua. You ain't going nowhere.
Vegas.
So, oh yeah, I mean, let him go there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers loves himself the nightlife. I mean, he loves talking. He has that big personality, but that's the only reason why he went to New York. I think the reason why he went to New York because of New York, the market, and because of what New York has to offer. And he feels like if I play at a certain level and if I win games, hey, I can use my platform to talk about whatever I want to talk about. There is life after football with Aaron Rodgers. I do see him having a podcast like what we do for a living. I do see him doing the types of things, going on talk shows and all that other stuff. Remember, he was on Jeopardy. He hosted Jeopardy, I think, Celebrity Jeopardy. So I see Aaron Rodgers doing a lot of things, but to me, you should retire. Because like I've said before, man, teammates, people have said this stuff about you from day one, and the only person that doesn't want to acknowledge it is you. Remember, we talked about the situation with Ryan Clark. And look, teammates have said it. Greg Jennings, Jermichael Finley, Donald Driver. They've said it about you regarding your leadership and your personality, Aaron. So I think it'd be best if you retire. You're going to go in Canton. You're going to be in the Hall of Fame, rightfully so. You're going to get your goal. You're going to get your ring of honor with the Green Bay Packers. You're one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. You're definitely going to have life after football. But for New York, nah, you got to move on.
I agree 100%, man. It's time to move on from Aaron Rodgers at this point. Hey, you got some quarterbacks coming in the draft. And if I'm New York, man, I'm trying to get my organization under control if I'm Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson has to get that organization under control, like with the quickness. And because right now, you still have a Super Bowl caliber team as far as talent is concerned. You just need to get your ducks in a row. And if I could convince some of this talent to stick with me for 1 or 2 more years while they still in these early contracts, I could definitely at least get myself into a deep playoff run. But I got to sear up my offensive line, and I got to sear up my at the quarterback position. But, yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said about that organization because, man, when you talk about Cleveland, you know, the Jets aren't no better. When you think about Geno Smith, he left New York. Now he's at Seattle. You know, he's led the league I think he led the league in passing yards 1 year, made a Pro Bowl, took the team to the playoffs, and, you know, almost took them to the playoffs again this year, although he had a down year.
Look at Sam
Darnold out there in Minnesota just straight shining at this point. It's a shame that a 14-3 team is on the road this year. But, you know, I think there's a lot to be said about that organization with 2 quarterbacks is moving on and led their team to the playoffs while you are just in the pit of obscurity. You got to ask yourself this question within the next few years. Is it Zach Wilson's turn next time in order to take a team to the playoffs? Because if he ends up going to another team, no, I'm serious.
You're right.
If he ends up going to another team and lead them to a playoff, even if it's 9-8, and he leads them to the playoff, it has even a decent year. There's a lot to be said within that organization. But we'll leave it at that for now. So in social media news, we have we all know that the TikTok ban is almost imminent. You know, and the reason I bring this up is because if it wasn't for TikTok, I would not be sitting here with you two or Flash or Aiden or any of the other guys that we do podcasts with. So if it were not for God and TikTok, I would not have met some of the most incredible people in the world and have been on podcasts and had a chance to do some of the things I'm doing now. So look, my thoughts on the TikTok ban is this. I'm going to go first on this one. I'm not scared for me. I am a content creator. I have 20,000 followers on TikTok. I loved every minute of it. But at the end of the day, guys like myself, BRF, even UPSP, Flash, a lot of guys that we do podcasts with and we do content with, we have careers and we flourish in our careers. And we're well-to-do in our careers. Who I'm scared for at this moment is the young 21-year-old or, the 18 to 21-year-olds who have made millions off of TikToks and they don't know where to go. They have no direction from here. They don't know where their life is going to go. They're pretty much their family business at this point, especially if they don't have another platform in order to, if they haven't used another platform in order to bring their audience to. So in terms of TikTok, I wish that it could stay. I wish that I hope that they can delay it to at least the next president gets into office, because he said he's going to try to save it. But honestly, what I'm scared for is the younger kids and the adults that was their saving grace. That was how they made their money. Some guys couldn't get jobs and stuff like that. And TikTok just came through and they allowed people to become entrepreneurs, become their own business, to make millions of dollars, to be on platforms and things of that nature. So that's who I'm scared for. Like I said, the guys like us who know how to work and who are workers and have their own career, we gonna be all right. We have our skills. We know what to do. Hey, social media comes by. Hey, we can keep doing podcasts and we can grow it. But what I'm scared for is the guys and women who have made this their lives and who lives revolves around that content creator fund that TikTok provides for them. Because not a lot of people, just because you translate, and I'm a witness to this. Just because you are great on TikTok doesn't necessarily mean you're great on YouTube. Matter of fact, quiet as it's kept, a lot of guys who have smaller TikTok followers have a bigger YouTube following. So, and that's just being real. A lot of guys who have huge TikTok followings don't have the best YouTube followings. So, that's who I'm scared for, the young kid who this is all he knows. And especially the young kids who is still in their teens and they've been using it since they were 14. Now they're 18 years old. Now they stripped the app away from you. Now you don't know where to go. So that's who I'm scared for, and I hate that. But on the flip side of that coin, though, the great thing that happened to me on TikTok is I met every last one of y'all. And it's been a blessing to be a part of everything since that time. God has really blessed me in order to meet every last one of y'all. So it's a good thing, because guess what? Friendships and relationships stay intact even when the app leaves. You can't take that away. You can take away the money, you can take away the following, but you cannot take away relationships. But I really hope they keep it for the sake of these younger and older people who have made TikTok their safe haven. And hey, I'm gonna miss the app, to be honest with you. I'm gonna be able to tell my kids, if I ever have any, hey, your pop used to be a content creator, right? I had 20,000 followers. I'm gonna be able to cap a little bit, say I went to certain events. But yeah, I think I hope they don't ban it. But if it is banned, hey man, you can't destroy relationships. You can't destroy friendships that were bonded. You can't destroy bonds. You can't destroy what was created through that. But I'm gonna hate to see all that money that 107. I think it's 170 million Americans use that app,
Damn.
and I think like 10% of them have over 1 million followers. And yeah, man, that's gonna be rough for a lot of guys. But you know, whoever wants to go first, what are y'all thoughts, bro?
I'll kick it off. I feel like, honestly, there are way more pressing matters in the United States of America than banning TikTok. So many things going on in this nation, and we worried about an app just because they don't make taxes off of it. It's the only reason why they're getting banned, because they don't make no money off of it. It's the only reason why they're getting banned. Let me tell you something. If TikTok was just throwing these folks in taxes just a couple of $1 million, it wouldn't go nowhere. I mean, we know what it's about. TikTok don't make no money. That's why certain things aren't legalized fully throughout the United States of America. But that's a whole nother can of worms right there. That's a whole nother conversation right there. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, just let me tell you, when I first started this, I had like no confidence in this at all, that I would be where I am right now doing podcasts with really great people that I've met because of this app. Like I would just, I like talking sports, and I like giving out facts, and I like doing stuff, and I like checking people when I like checking people when their hot takes suck. That was me at the beginning. I like doing little stuff. I like doing stuff like that, but I didn't think it would grow to where I'm at today. I mean, my followers are still, on the downside, TikTok wise. I'm still like, I haven't crossed the 2,500 follower mark yet, but I look at it from the standpoint of like seeing my face, like whether it's Facebook or IG or TikTok, just like seeing myself in intro videos and promo videos, and just seeing myself like being presented in such a way like I'm an important, prominent figure in podcasting and sports. It was like something I didn't expect to see. And I owe it to actually building confidence in that app in order to be able to do things like this, to be able to, have a platform to be able to present myself on and doing what I love to do. And just, and like I said, it's not just the app. It's just, I owe it to Champ. I owe it to you. Cause I mean, let's face it, the TikTok lives after the Sunday slate of games, I mean, that was us. And if Flash came in and added his expertise to it, and then look where we're at now with the Undisputed GOAT Sports Podcast. I mean, like you started the vision for that, and then you brought me and Flash on, and look where we're at now. About to hit, what I'm saying? People can say what they want, 100 subscribers. That ain't much to some people, but for us, that's an achievement.
Yeah,
That's an achievement. That's notoriety. That's putting ourselves, that's taking a risk and putting ourselves out there doing what we love to do, and people are taking notice of that. 100 subscribers is the first of what I hope is many milestones for us. And then Champ, spreading, talking about me to PSP, and PSP giving me the opportunity to be on his platform, who I owe a lot of thanks and appreciation for. So, I mean, this app has done a lot of good things for me, and just seeing it wiped away because politicians are greedy. I mean, it's played out, and it's kind of dumb. I mean, we'll see when who gets inaugurated, and we'll see what he wants to do. Because honestly, I know why he probably wants to keep them around, because I think they donated to him. But like I said, that's another conversation. But even still, though, just like I said, I feel like there are just way more pressing matters in the world, particularly in our country, than to worry about an app that's there to have fun on. And like you said, Champ, I worry about them too. The streamers that basically their income is that app. And then it's like that's what they know. And then it's like, where do they go from here? Like, how do they spread how do they branch out? How do they take their name brand elsewhere? How do they spread it out? do I think a lot of them can? I do, because ultimately at the end of the day, being a TikTok entrepreneur still makes you an entrepreneur, still makes you a business person. So you are gaining some type of expertise, you are gaining experience, you're gaining an ability to take it elsewhere. So I do have confidence in those, but it's just like I said, I just think there are way more pressing matters in our country besides worrying about TikTok, because our government is greedy and they just want credit for everything, as opposed to just letting stuff be the way just letting stuff be as is. But I mean, like I said, that's another conversation we can have on an entirely different platform, an entirely different time. But just, I don't know. I find this messy. I find this petty. I find this kind of childish, and just from the standpoint of just, it's like, I mean, we hear the NFL, they talk about the no fun league as a country. Like, when have we become like just a no fun nation? Like, it's like, well, like, come on, man. I mean, there's more important things to worry about. So that's really all I got to say about it. I just find it just, I don't know. There's more important things that they could be doing besides trying to ban TikTok.
PSP.
I'll be fine because at the end of the day, I mean, yes, to Champ's point, I wouldn't know Champ if it were not for TikTok, as well as other content creators as well. But fortunately for me, with the Sports PSP pod, almost at 60,000. So with YouTube, I'm still gonna do my thing. I'm still gonna do IG. I won't go on X. I ain't using X. I don't want to use X anymore. I don't trust X anymore. But yeah, TikTok, I mean, it was a lot of fun. Some things don't last forever. Unfortunately, we are where we are as a country, as a society. It's gonna be interesting, to your point, BRF, how the person inaugurated, how he's going to handle it, because he did say he wanted to bring back TikTok. So we'll see. We'll see. But with content creators like ourselves, I don't think people realize or understand how much hard work as content creators we do. They just look at, I mean, people just look at it as just a hobby. Nah, I look at it as more than just a hobby. I put in a lot of time. I put in a lot of effort. Sometimes I even have to call out of work just in order for me to do my content stuff, because this is something that I cherish. This is something that this is mine. I mean, I put in a lot of time and definitely a lot of money. So, it really hurts for us as content creators with TikTok. But I'll be fine. Like, at the end of the day, I still have YouTube. I still have my IG. I still know that there is an audience. People are tuned in to hear what I have to say, as well as the panel. So I'm still going to be fine. I'm just going to find other ways to use my platform. Simple as that.
Flash, welcome back. You all right? Flash, you good?
Can he hear?
Can he hear us? I don't think he can hear us. Let me try to remove him and add him back. Hey, Flash, can you hear us? Yeah, I don't think he can hear us, but I don't think he can hear us. But I'll go back. I'll go back until he rejoins. Look, like I said, I'm just concerned about the law. About, like I said, especially the kids, man, because there's some kids out here who's making millions off of TikTok. There's some kid out there who's making millions off of TikTok, man, and I just feel sorry for those kids, man. Now you have to go back to work, and I hope that those kids were financially responsible. I hope that they were, because if they wasn't, they gonna feel it. But I will say this, TikTok, man. Look, if you ban or if you're not, make sure that check fall on the 15th of January and on the 15th of February. That's all I got to say about that, because I want my money. So as long as you pay me that money, you can go ahead. We go peacefully. But hey, either way, I enjoyed it, but I want my money. So in the great words of what's that dude's name off of in the great words of what's that dude's name off of in the Great Roots of what's that dude's name off of Trust Us from CB4. Where's my money? Yeah, that's all I wanted to. Where's my money? Flash, welcome back,
Hi.
man. How you been? How you doing, buddy?
Well, besides wanting to put my face through a window, other than that, just great, just dandy.
Yeah. What do you think
Yeah,
about the TikTok ban?
I always say follow the money. And if you notice who went on Joe Rogan's podcast either today or yesterday, it was Mark Zuckerberg, and he's cozying up to the federal government now. So I've always believed that this has been TikTok's basically overtaking the market here in the United States. And all the United States tech companies want them out. I think that's what it's about. And so I think that this is a lot of lobbying. And I think Facebook and Google are lobbying the federal government to ban this. Do I think that there's an actual issue with Chinese security? Maybe. But in all actuality, like, our data is all over worldwide. Like, there's nothing that anybody can stop from any country from gathering any kind of data whatsoever. So I look at it as it's just a money thing. That's all it is.
Yeah.
All the money. And the Supreme Court's got a big decision on their hands in the next week. It's not just about following the money, because if the federal government has the ability to just unilaterally say, this company, this app, this internet provider is a danger to our national security, and it's just a blanket statement, because they still have the U.S. government and hasn't really given any kind of evidence. It's just it's a maybe that it's a national security risk, or that's a possibility. They haven't given any evidence to any kind of court whatsoever that it's actually a risk.
Just like they did in 2003.
Yep. So
yeah,
this is the same thing. So it's and I'm a firm believer that I don't think the federal government should have this kind of unilateral power in general. I don't care who's in charge, Democrats or Republicans. So I don't think it's a free speech issue at all. I don't think it's that. I think it's money, and at the end of the day, if you give look what happened after the Republicans enacted the Patriot Act. So that was I lean conservative, and I think that was one of the most egregious things that have gone against our freedoms and our nation's history. So I think this is a really big decision for the Supreme Court, and I hope they make the right one. So this is a conservative-leaning Supreme Court, and typically conservatives are against overreach of the federal government. Well, prove it. That's what I got to say.
Like I said, good one, Flash. I'm glad that you was able to come on here, because I think you are one of the best political minds that I know. As y'all know, I'm not a political guy. I hate politics. And if you look at my profile on Instagram and look back about 5 years, you will know why. So, but I will say this. You could destroy an app, can't destroy relationships. So, the relationships that I've built, that we've built, with not just here on the show, but with a lot of the other content creators, man, because whether we realize it or not, we're bigger than just our shows. We've literally become communities on whole other apps. We've become communities within group chats, not just with the group chat that we're in. We know guys on the West Coast doing podcasts with them. So guys in San Francisco, LA, in Flash's case, Wisconsin. When I first met BRF, I had no idea he was from Madison, Georgia. So guys who are near and far TikTok, God and TikTok helped us build that community. And I'm glad that we was able to, because like I said, you could destroy an app, you could destroy an army, you could destroy a lot of things. You can't destroy relationships. And relationships are, are forever. And so we hope. And like I said, I'm just scared for them, for those young kids. And I know people get on to me about calling those 21-year-olds and they're kids to me, because I've lived through damn near everything you can go through. But those young men and women who have depended on this app and they got certain lifestyles that they're used to, and they used to going to the mall every day just making content and doing all of that, I don't want it to get ugly for them just because somebody decided, hey, you're interfering on my turf and now you got to go. I mean, you're going to do that, you might as well be in another type of game. And guess what? Y'all raise war against that game too over not being able to tax it. Read between the lines on that though. And y'all know what other game I'm talking about. So with that being said, moving on from the ban, let's go to something that was just as new. Netflix on Raw. I think very, very good, man. I think it was I don't think they did a good job of diversifying the show. What I mean by that, it just seems like they just wanted all baby faces to win. And it's just like, no, that ain't the move. But I think they did a hell of a job with the presentation. I think they did a hell of a job with making it seem like it was a pay-per-view. A PLE, a PLE. And I think they did a great job on, making sure not only the present superstars had a say, but some of the past superstars got a say, like The Rock and The Undertaker, and them two, I would say. But yeah, The Rock and The Undertaker, and yeah. I'm glad we was able to see Taker again, The Rock again. Seeing Taker again was phenomenal. Taker's one of my favorite of all time. So yeah, it was good to see those two guys again, man, bridge the gap between the past and the present. And look, it was a PLE type of event. I know a lot of hardcore wrestling fans had mixed reviews. I didn't like the fact that they just let all baby faces just run the table all night. But that's my take. Other than that, I think that was pretty good. I don't think they should have let The Rock come back as Dwayne. I mean, that wasn't The Rock, that was Dwayne. So he came back as Dwayne. So plus the very next night on NXT to see him with his daughter, that was something special as well, man. So I have no complaints about it, man. Like I said, as just a fan, I was happy about it, man. It's a new beginning. I'm gonna miss seeing it on USA Network and catching Walker Texas Ranger right after that, but that's another story. I'm gonna miss that, but I mean, as far as that is concerned, I can't wait to see what else they got in store for us. But Flash, I'm gonna let you go first, man. What did you think about it, man? I know me and you was talking in the chat a little bit about it, but let me know what you think about it, bro.
Well, I made a TikTok video about this. I was really disappointed. I thought it felt. I loved the look of it. I liked the new ring. I didn't even mind the ads in the ring. It bothered me at first, and then I didn't even notice them after a while. It just felt like a yay, we're on Netflix type night. I don't think The Rock should have opened the show. I think it should have been Cena. If you're going to do anybody that is your ambassador, I think Cena was the guy. You have effectively basically ended multiple storylines in one night. I haven't watched SmackDown from last night yet, so I'm kind of talking out of my butt to a certain extent. But I feel like the Bloodline storyline is over now. It should be. Like, you literally had the whole file of went back to Roman. What more do you really need to do? And then The Rock came out and acknowledged him. And he was babyface all night. Not even just on TV or on Netflix, but then they went live on Instagram and he was like, you know, dabbing up Drew McIntyre's whole arc right now is anybody associated with Roman Reigns, he's trying to like murder. And so, and he's just like, you know, hey, what's up, Drew? Yo, what's up? And I'm just like, did we just, what just, wait a minute, hold up. What just happened?
Oh, so you, oh, my bad. I was going to say something.
And honestly, I thought Seth and CM Punk was a really boring match. I thought it was just basically them exchanging finishers for the last half of the match and then sealing each other's finishers back and forth. And I don't even think there wasn't even really gritty for do the better storytellers in the ring. I thought it was really poor by them. I felt it was kind of thrown together at the last minute. Like it didn't, there was no lead up or build up. I don't know. I was just really disappointed. And the Hogan thing, having Hogan come out made never like
stole my thunder.
You have Saturday night's main event in 2 weeks in Texas. Have Hogan come out then. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Hogan's at the point where he should just get booed out of the arena anyways. But, like, it just didn't make any sense. And then, like, why is The Undertaker coming out for Rhea Ripley? Because they both wear purple and black? Like, what association do those two have? None. And it, like, what? Why does she need it? Like, why does she need the rub to The Undertaker? She doesn't. She's already a star. And it was just like they were doing it because it just felt like it's you know how like when you watch a movie and there's just gratuitous cameos for no reason and it just gets flooded and you just they're meaningless cameos. That's what it felt like to me. And the other thing too is like The Rock comes out as the ambassador and with the Brahma Bull belt and everything else, and he comes out to the final boss. It's just nothing. None of it made any sense. I don't know. That's just my feeling. I was just really disappointed. We had none of the returns that we were told. Like Charlotte didn't come back. He didn't come back. Penta didn't show up. It was just really weird. It felt like a really bad Saudi Arabia show.
Yeah,
what it felt like. Just now, maybe I'm just being, but I'm the first one to crap on the wrestling fans, like for being over negative. I was just really disappointed. And it didn't make the booking didn't make sense. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, it is. A lot of breaking the kayfabe. A lot of breaking the kayfabe. It was kind of crazy. The Rock just breaking kayfabe. Left and right. And I hate to sound like Jim Cornette, but damn, you just can't keep breaking kayfabe.
No.
You just can't keep breaking kayfabe. It's like,
look, we all know that wrestling is predetermined, and I know, dare I say, fake. I know that's if I said that in front of any wrestler, I get my teeth caved in. But I need to have moments where I can have my ignorance as a child. Like let me have moments. Like when you overdo it, it takes away from the theater of it. When you go kayfabe too much, the theater goes away. And yeah, sorry I interrupted. I apologize.
Oh, you good, but yeah, man, all the breaking of kayfabe is kind of crazy. But I mean, hey, but.
Have you been watching Jim Cornette videos? Have you been watching some colorful videos and stuff like that?
No, I haven't watched them lately, but I gotta go online because I know one of the videos came out about his opinion on what happened Monday. So I gotta see what goes on. But PSP, since we're on you already, what do you think about it?
I like Triple H's intro. I think Triple H has done a great job with the WWE. I didn't like the fact that Rock was kind of breaking kayfabe a little too much. I did like the moment with him, Roman Reigns, and then Paul Heyman when he was acknowledging like Roman Reigns. Of course, Hogan. Why did you have to bring Hulk Hogan to Los Angeles? You could bring him to Texas. You could bring him to Alabama or somewhere over there. That way he wouldn't be booed. I'm sorry. This is. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Flash.
No, I was just saying, is Hogan at the point where he's just going to get booed no matter where he goes?
I think if he were in the South, I don't think he would have been booed. But because it was LA,
like Taker got cheered, and Taker's he's a hardcore conservative and a Republican. Like
he is.
Hogan did not get booed because of his political beliefs.
That's where I was going to.
Yeah,
Hogan has a far.
He's got way more.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I'll just say this and I'll let you go. If you are out there and you generally, by God, believe that Hulk Hogan got booed for his political beliefs, you ain't been watching Hulk Hogan the past few years, and I'll just leave it at that.
No, I don't get me wrong. I think that just adds to it. You're out in LA. I don't think that's the reason. I think it was like, that's why I said, like, is Hogan at the point where he's just could go into the deep South and he'd still get booed out of the building. Like, I just think that he is at a point now that, I mean, the dude could barely walk. Like, he's out, like,
Jimmy Hart actually looked younger than him. He moved better than him.
Like, my 18-year-old cat has more movement in his hips than Hogan does. Like, I just,
even Jim Cornette talked about it on his pod.
Like, he's like walking out like this, and I'm just like, dude, like, you're nearing Flair territory where everybody just wants you to go away. And I think that's kind of it. That's the other aspect to this of, like, at some point you get too old to do this. Like, even just to come out and say, like, hey, brother, like, we're good. Just leave us with The Rock WrestleRadio, just leave us with WrestleMania 18. Just leave us with that. And that should be, all the other crap that's come after that basically has just been terrible. Like, just,
for me, champ, I don't know how you feel. I would love to see, I don't know how most feel. I would love to see Stone Cold there on WWE Raw. I would love to see Steve Austin make an appearance because I just think with someone like him being so beneficial, I think it would have been huge. Can you imagine if you heard the glass break in Los Angeles or anywhere else? Steve would intensify that audience, and to have someone like Steve there. But overall, I think it was kind of good. I mean, I did watch a little bit of the Seth Rollins CM Punk match, not to the type of standard that I was thinking of. But that's about it. But I would have loved to see Steve there to entice that fan base with the beer drinking and all that stuff. I would love to see Steve.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's the first one on Netflix. They can't give out the full spiel on the first one on Netflix. You can't give the full spiel the first one on Netflix because at the end of the day, yeah, they built it like a PLE show. It's still a TV show at the end of the day. You can't give the whole spiel because them expectations are going to be ridiculous if you really went out there with the first one. And then we know Raw. Raw has its ebbs and flows. It's a roller coaster. It has some good ones. It has some so-so ones. It's kind of like this. So you can't get a whole spiel on the first one. Now I'm with you as far as like The Rock. Do I think the Bloodline storyline is over? No, I don't.
No, I don't either.
I don't, because I feel like this is one of those things where it's just like The Rock just, being the ambassador and all this other stuff. I don't think it's over because, for one, that promo he cut the next night on NXT, he dropped that line talking about The Rock is always 20 steps ahead and all this other stuff. I'm like, something about to happen. They just kind of wanted to, have this little bit of fun with Netflix or whatever. And then I think they about to go back, balls to the wall come Royal Rumble. I think something crazy is going to happen Royal Rumble as far as the Bloodline storyline. I don't think it's over with. I don't think it's over with at all. Seth Rollins, CM Punk. I think it was a good match. Personally, I think it's just there. I think it's locked, booked. That's going to be a trilogy. That's the first. I think it's going to be a trilogy, and I think they're going to go 3 matches. Whether the second one's at Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber, and then the third one ultimately being at WrestleMania, I think they're going to be a trilogy. That's my opinion on that. I think it was a good match. Like, the finishers might have been a little overkill, but I still think it was the match of the night as far as I'm concerned. So now to start the way they did with Solo and Roman, that was the way to start it, because they did a really good job. And me personally, I did think Solo was going to win the match, but I understand to an extent why they let Roman win it. I just don't think that angle's over, because I think they can play into the idea of, like, Solo losing to Ulafala. Now, is he really going to acknowledge him, or is he going to kind of delve into like a more psychotic side that we haven't seen of him yet? Like, is he really going to acknowledge him, or is he just going to drop him at the first chance he get and say, "Nah, we ain't done yet"? So I don't think they're over with. I'll say this: they needed to end Rhea and Liv. I mean, and it's a shame, because when that angle first really started, they had a lot of potential with those two, because I do still think they have really good chemistry in the ring, and that match was still really good. But they needed to end that, and I hate to say, for all our sakes, they really needed to end that, just because they did them a disservice with that angle. Now, I will say this though, I like what they did with the end. Got me thinking we could see Rhea Ripley, Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania.
You know what I said? That's the end game. That's the end goal.
I think that's the end goal. I think that's the end goal. I think we get Rhea and Dom at WrestleMania. I think that's where the end game is. No, go ahead. You can go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with. I said that last week. I think I said I thought that was the end goal. How they do it or how they play it, I'm not really sure. I think the orbital bone fracture with Rhea kind of messed up the flow of this storyline. Like, when that happened, it kind of because we saw Rhea come back from injury, and then we had to kind of see it again, and it was even when she won on Monday, the crowd pop was really bland. Like it was like they expected that. It was kind of like, oh God, finally. It was kind of like that. It was I'm a little, I don't know. I've always been in the opinion that Rhea's at the point she doesn't need the title. She's already over as a superstar. So I'm really curious what they do with Liv going on. There's rumors now that Alexa Bliss is really close to returning. So where that goes to, I don't know. I'm just really curious. I agree. I love Liv and Dom and that whole thing, but that you're right. It needed to end. Like it needed to one way or another. It did need to end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also think I'll say this: Rhea Ripley. I think the end game for her with WrestleMania is one of two things. Like I said, I think they either they built up for Dominic Mysterio and her at WrestleMania doing the intergender match, or I think the dream match that I think a lot of people are really starting to talk about, and they kind of tease it a little bit. Rhea versus Io. Like, the chance of I think Io. It would not shock me at all, and I think she's going to. I think Io is winning the Rumble for the women. I really do. I really do. I think she's winning the Rumble. I really do. I mean, it's her. I guess Charlotte Flair, if she's coming back, would definitely be a favorite to win it. And then you could do her, and Tiffany Stratton for the WWE Women's Championship. I think that's the match we're going to get for the women's title, for the WWE Women's title. Anyway, I think we're getting Charlotte and Tiffany anyway. So, but it just, I don't know. I think there's a couple of angles that can go with Rhea there, but I think ultimately, for the most part, I think they understand. Yeah, it was the first Netflix on Raw. Yeah, they hyped it to the highest of their abilities, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's still the weekly episodic thing. And if you go all out with the first one, then every Monday's gonna have to be like that, and just ain't it. And as deep as the roster is, just ain't no way. So it was for me. It was a good first start, and I'm definitely excited to see where they go. I know, man, I would love to go to the one in Atlanta. I think the third episode of Raw is in Atlanta. It's either third or fourth. I think it's the third. The third is going to be in Atlanta. I think I doubt I'll be able to go, but I would love to go. But yeah, it's got a lot of really good potential to really build off of this one. Because, like I said, you don't want to give away the whole spiel on the first one. Because then every single one of them's got to meet that criteria. And then, as good as WWE's been with their advertising and with some of their angles and whatnot, just ain't no way. So we'll just kind of see where it goes.
Yeah, man. Can't give away the whole spiel, but it's going to be interesting to see how it goes from now on as far as Raw on Netflix, man. But on that note, man, look, had a hell of a show today, man. We missed Flash, man. Shout out to Aiden for joining us earlier today, man. Unfortunately, he had to leave. And big shout out to PSP, man. You know, making a special guest appearance on the Undisputed GOAT podcast, one of the podcasts that he helped build. And I really appreciate you showing up, bro. It's a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to have you here, man. Anytime, and, you know, like I said in the earlier segment when we was talking about TikTok, man, they can destroy the title and they can destroy the army, but you cannot destroy relationships. And I'm glad I got a hell of a relationship with each and every last one of you guys. You guys are like my brothers, and I appreciate all of you guys. Shout out to other content creators that we rock with, you know, Sports for You, Nine Gorilla, Mr. Watson, Trail, you know, all the other guys, Brandon from the Block, Hot Take Kenny, all of those guys. Like I said, you could destroy a platform, but you cannot destroy relationships. And that is how certain platforms get built back up, because of those relationships that you helped build. So on that note, man, look, let's take it away and let's get up out of here. PSP, since you are the special guest of honor, man, tell the people where to follow you, man. And let the people know about your last video that you just posted so they can go check it out.
Like and subscribe to the Sports PSP podcast. Go check it out on YouTube. Almost at 60,000. Appreciate GOAT. Appreciate Champ. Appreciate BRF, Flash, everyone else for contributing to the Sports PSP podcast. Newest video, post-game reaction regarding the Chargers-Texans game. What are your thoughts about the game? With this performance, is Justin Herbert, dare I say, playoff choker because of this performance right here? Is he going to be labeled overrated? Because imagine if what we'd be saying if it were Lamar Jackson. So I talked a lot about that on the video. And of course, always a pleasure being on Champ's podcast, man. Thank you.
No problem, brother. It's always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be here, for you to be here, bro. Flash.
Sorry for all the internet issues, and I'm disappointed that I missed the show or most of it, but I'm glad I got it for the end. Got into it. Thanks for PSP for coming on. Appreciate it, especially filling in and everything. So can't get much better than that.
Thank you.
And check out Sports PSP, and then check us out next week on Saturday. Hopefully, my internet won't do a random factory reset. So yeah. And we'll be getting to go. But Notre Dame, Ohio State, we got football playoffs. I don't even know what the score of the Ravens Steelers game is.
That game's over. The Steelers ran them out the building. That game over. I mean, the Ravens ran them out the building. That game over with.
Really?
Yeah, that was a down home Mississippi ass whooping that they just got. So
good point. Okay. Yeah. So we got we got the rest of the games on Sunday and Monday, and we'll have a lot to talk about come next Saturday. So
BRF live from the snowy city of Madison.
I know, right? Say that 5 times fast. Shout out to everybody who love and support us. We definitely appreciate it. Come on, man. You can't get better than Sports PSP making a special guest appearance on the Undisputed GOAT podcast. Definitely always a pleasure having him on. Always a pleasure doing this with my 2 other big homies, with Champ and Flash. I gotta say this though, because we were talking about the TikTok ban earlier and everything. I gotta say, no matter what happens with all that, y'all don't worry. We still gonna rock this, regardless of what happened. We still gonna be here. We're not going anywhere. We still gonna do our thing. Shout out to the chat. Always a blast having fun with y'all, and just wishing much success to everybody. And it's always a pleasure to get on here. And yeah, like, definitely gonna continue to send prayers and show love to everybody out in California with the wildfires and the earthquakes and all that. Just, if you were affected, we got number love, and we're gonna support y'all through thick and thin, because we know you're gonna pull through. We're praying for you to pull through, and we wish y'all nothing but the best. And yeah, man, like, this has just been like, it's like each coast was like the complete opposite. Like, you had everything going on in California, and then you got like freaking snow in Madison, Georgia. I mean, come on, man. Let's face it, that happens like once every 4 years. So definitely a crazy start to 2025, but hopefully it's off to bigger and better things for everybody. So shout out to everybody. And we don't we have like kind of like an announcement that we ought to make, or should we just save that?
Make the announcement.
Should I make the announcement?
Make the announcement.
All right, I'm gonna make the announcement. Champ brought up the homies from Sports for You, Mr. Watson, Trail, and 9 Gorilla, the homie Nick Freeze. We will be collaboing for the Royal Rumble event. So y'all definitely peep that. Peep that. Saturday, February 1st, Royal Rumble. We collabing on it, and it's gonna be a blast. So make sure you follow the homies as well. Follow Sports for You. Follow John. Follow Trail. Follow Nick. Follow the homies, because I'm telling you right now, if our appearances on Sports for You has told y'all anything, we probably about to burn that place down. So get ready for some fun that night.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hey, y'all already know, man. Shout out to Columbus, Georgia, man. Had a few tragedies here. We will work through them. And look, now it's the time for you to spend time with family. Hold them close. Hold your relationship close. Make sure you pray, and make sure you stay close to that cross. Don't mean to get religious on here, but let's just be honest. Stay close, because when you venture too far away from the herd, you get eaten by the wolf. And we'll leave it at that. But on that note, man, hell of a show tonight, man. Hell of a guest appearance by Aiden and the great PSP, man. Flash joining us at the end, giving us his input, his political input on the TikTok ban. Like I said, a mixture of controversy and charisma. You got to give the Pat McAfee of the Undisputed GOAT podcast his props. So, man, big shout out to BRF, man. Thank you for helping me carry the show, because good God, I was worried with Flash internet messed up. I was worried like hell. So I'm like, oh shit.
Because let me tell you something. I did not like that at all. Him not being here, but we had to keep it pushing, and we was able to. But you know what? Hey, this is what we do. When one go down, the other two got to pick back up, because at the end of the day, Flash is still family. Flash is still part of us. So he know we got him.
We got you. And on that note, man, shout out to Columbus, Georgia. Shout out to Madison, Georgia. Shout out to Wisconsin, and shout out to New Jersey. But on that note, we are out. Thank you.